at pitching it. He does to Cook. Oh, he reaches across. Touchdown, Buffalo.
Who should we get the ball to?
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
First and goal. Holmes still has it. To the 5. And in for the touchdown. And his worst pass of the night is on the spike attempt.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Barkley, a little shovel, looking for an edge, gets it, Saquon Barkley, first down, Barkley, oh! Saquon, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
First to throw, near side, lets it rip, Brown, touchdown!
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Design run, Hurts, delay, Hurts, in, touchdown, Eagles!
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you've had a really good day and hopefully a very productive week as we go into the weekend. There is college football tonight, NFL prospects, the Shrine Bowl. And then, of course, a little bit later on, leading into the weekend, the Senior Bowl, too, the Super Bowl a week from Sunday. I don't like the way that guy was so excited, Garrett and Craig, about the Eagles and Saquon Barkley. I didn't like that. That was a little bit over the top for me.
Yeah, the opening?
Yeah, I'm just joking.
You're saying it's painful?
I wasn't listening. So.
Is it like I'm just ripping Band-Aids off?
No, it's not. I actually have a huge pet peeve. You know how I am about officiating. Even though there are times it is part of the discussion, it is as soon as a team that you like, I see the fan bases do this. It's everybody. They're losing the game, and then they start to say now the announcers are against them too. Like, it's not, that's part of the deal. That's part of being a fan. You got all the emotions.
You get excited. Although we did, and I said this about Joe Theismann last week, I didn't appreciate it when I was younger, but you could tell, like, the palpable hatred he had for the NFC East rivals when he did those games. I mean, he was very professional about it, but you could tell if he was doing that game and they were losing, he was like, yeah. Serves it right.
He never said
He never said it, but you could hear it like.
Listen, there's about 12 guys that are former I'm sorry. There are 12 guys that are former Cowboys broadcasters, aren't there?
Yeah.
It seemed like it is. Okay, that's, again, the start of the show. Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. The ACC and ESPN, which was a huge story for days after days after days, in the process of ratifying an extension of the television contract. Now, remember, there was an opt-out option, too. This looks like, it appears, Ross Dellinger with a very thorough article, as he does all the time, it appears as if they're going to make this happen. They're going to extend the contract. Why wouldn't they? And there is the possibility of making sure that the big boys get extra scratch, who are the ones carrying the conference.
Well, look, I thought for a while after the first, if FSU and Clemson were going to get out, I thought it was going to happen, like something would have come about that like would have let them out, or you would have heard a conference going, oh, hey, but when you've got people having to go all over the place and read documents and then, nobody understands how it really works, it just seemed more and more like this was going to have to head to a resolution, especially since the fact that they didn't really have anywhere to go.
I thought they were joining the Big 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I was told
so
last
since
year.
they didn't have anywhere to go, this was just a method to get what they wanted done, which is, multi-tiered distribution, which hasn't worked well for other conferences. Most of the time, it leads to a breakup. I do believe it'll lead to a shortening of the grant of rights for teams that want to get out in 2031, especially those. But there's other things that they're doing that I think are at least wise for the time being. But yeah, the AC, and yesterday, some of the the realignment pornographers out there were like, oh, here it comes. They haven't ratified the contract yet. Oh, this is UNC is going to be in the SEC. No, they're not. No, they're not. They ratified the contract. Nobody's going anywhere. This is where it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack from this. Obviously, it's good news for the ACC and the schools who aren't and haven't been threatening to leave for the last year or two. So at least for the time being, it appears as if you've got some steady waters, although there's still some choppiness and there's still some negotiating and some figuring out to be done, primarily on something like the grant of rights and whether or not that would be shortened to 2031. And also, just how do they continue to navigate that lawsuit? Like, this doesn't end the lawsuit with Florida State and Clemson, so that continues on, and without a resolution, that's still a pretty big loose end. But according to Ross's reporting, there's ongoing talks, and there is a better than not chance that they could come to an agreement of some sort that ends that lawsuit and gives Florida State and Clemson a little bit of something to tide them over and give them maybe a little bit more. And so there's negotiating ongoing right now between the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, and perhaps others. But in terms of, I think, trying to find an alternative to just, hey, let's continue to burn money in court against each other and then end up in the same place after another 2 years and we just waste time and we waste money, right? So I think, that still remains to be seen, but it doesn't appear as though in regards to that part of the story that there's any shockwave that's on the other side. Like, they're going to work it out or they're not, or the lawsuit's going to move. Like, they're going to work it out and figure out an agreement, or the lawsuit's just going to continue to move forward. But there's not any lever that's going to be pulled where sooner rather than later those guys are just jumping off to the SEC and or the Big Ten or whatever the rumor may have been, depending on what corner of the internet you saw it from. So I think that's all very interesting and useful information to know that there's that element of it where for right now that's going to tamper down and they'll figure out the lawsuit part of it. So I know that's not necessarily what a Florida State or a Clemson fan wanted to see, or maybe even a North Carolina fan. This doesn't mean that they're locked down till 2036, because as you said, they could agree on a shortened grant of rights, and so teams get out in 2031. But what year are we in right now? 2025.
Yeah.
So only a month into it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And let's face it though, I don't know if I mentioned on the show or not, but I've definitely been thinking about it as the season was coming to a close. I was like, I wonder how long it is before the realignment spree starts, because all of the news starts to slow down.
A week. It was 1 week.
It was 1 week. And you could predict it, and I did predict it. And so it was just kind of funny to see that ball get rolling, I guess. You pointed out something to me, and I was just like, yeah, here we go. And then today this story drops, and I thought the timing was hilarious because, there's a bunch of people that just feel like they got cut off at the knees. But, this isn't the end-all, be-all. But it does cut some of the noise out a little bit for the time being, and it does end some narratives, certainly, as well, that were out there that in some cases were never believable and you could see through if you had half a brain cell anyways. Like the Big 12 being involved to some extent or whatever, that was clearly not as about to happen as it was portrayed to be, perhaps, nor have other parts of this story been. So, it's a great update. We were waiting to see what was going to happen with the extension, and I think as most expected, ESPN said, why would we get rid of all this content and all of these games and this agreement and this investment? It would make no sense for them, so they're getting the option to pick up, and they're picking up, and I think that's very interesting.
Xavier Wolf, come on, 365. All summer long, you all predicted the ACC would die. SMU was joining a dying conference, and so I put it up on the chat room. Show me a piece of evidence we ever said they would die, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. We said, we were describing that they need to make sure they get this thing together or they would fall apart. And we've seen others, like we've seen the Pac-12. Oregon State and Washington State right now are kind of still stranded, if you think about it. And there are some schools in the ACC that could have been Oregon State and Washington State. I am for, and I'm so glad, and I hope that this all does work out, that all of the conferences, and I hated the realignment. It was great for us, But I love the fact the ACC appears to be moving forward.
I, as a fan of a school in the ACC, I'm one of the rare ones who thinks it's better for Florida State and Clemson to be where they are.
It's better for the Big 12.
It's better for everybody
Yes.
that they stay put. I know that, there's a money element to this. And, look, I want my school to make as much money. I want everybody to make as much money as they can. I mean, I'm all for them making money, but not at the expense of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Now, in 2031, when we could get another shakeup because of these TV deals and the playoff will be, 7-8 years in by that time, and you'll kind of know what the TV networks want, what the schools think is viable, who, in the new era of the House settlement, whenever that all gets worked out, because it's still, going to be a bit of a legal nightmare for everybody going forward. So by 2031, we should have some answers in all of this, which it takes a long time. It just can't happen like that. That's how the world works. I think it's better. I think it's better for right now. And, yeah, you may not be making as much money, but, they're give you time to find other avenues as opposed to just doing kind of, willy-nilly.
Having 4 conferences is better than having 3 conferences if you're not the SEC or the Big Ten. And I am going to call whoever that was out because you're totally full of it. You're absolutely full of it in terms of we did not spend all summer talking about realignment. We actually talked about it very little.
Yep.
If you're talking about 3 years ago when we were all over the Big 12 and that happened with the Pac-12, then we talked about it a lot then. We talked about this and mostly talked about how a lot of it just seemed like a bunch of BS. We did not predict that the Big 12 was going to go get FSU and North Carolina and Clemson. We did not get into any of that and just said, okay, I guess if that happens, then that's crazy. But I think you're barking up the wrong tree. I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong, but I know I'm not wrong on this. We have absolutely not pushed that narrative. We discussed headlines as well as anybody else, but I think you're confusing us with perhaps some other shows out there.
One of the things that we actually at times get criticism for is that we don't talk about realignment enough, and are some what I call realignment ambulance chasers. We could bring something up every single day, but bottom line is the ACC, it appears as if they're headed towards being stable. That was always the best for everybody involved and for the Big 12. So I would never want the ACC. We have a guy that contacts us sometimes on Twitter about the ACC and the ratings, and I think he felt a little bit bitter because they were attacked. They were under attack, but nothing anywhere like what the Big 12 went through when they lost everything.
Now, I will admit to something. I said that FSU and Clemson are doing this to leave.
Of course they are.
And but I always said, but the question is, when can they do that? And I don't think that changes even with the settlement, that there's whatever settlement happens is going to shorten the window or at least the penalty for them leaving if they do in, say, 2031. But that's still, they did this so they could find a way to leave quicker.
You did not predict the death of the ACC.
No.
You did not predict a bunch of teams jumping over. You did not predict. No, we discussed the actual headlines. That's what we've always done. So, again, I'll say to that person, I think you got us confused. But we'll admit when we're wrong. We don't have any problem doing that. And quite frankly, the easy thing to do would be to just get into it and not care about what might be true or not. We try to deal in reality as much as we can. So that's why sometimes we just don't even touch on something at all because we look around like, does that really make any – no, it doesn't. Okay, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. So, yeah, I think this is great news for the ACC. Obviously, you still have a lot of things to figure out. I think it's if you're hoping for some sort of Big 12 risk game where you're conquering lands and all that, this isn't great news. But I don't really think the conference benefits all that much from getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it is. Sure, you want to add brands, but I just never bought into that. And I think our big point last summer was, why would you sue to just go to the Big 12? Mm-hmm. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So that was where I think our main thought was. This obviously isn't a story that's over, but this is a pretty big part of it where you kind of had this circle that it wasn't the end-all, be-all. Like, if they picked up the option that this was going to just go quiet for 10 years, because clearly, like we talked about again, they could negotiate the exit date. But this was a date a time that was kind of looked at as they're expected to pick it up, but is there that off chance that they might not? So everybody got their answer today and can move accordingly. And I think I've already seen a few people shift their positions based on this news. And we'll go forward and see what it looks like and what kind of agreement they can come to. And obviously that lawsuit still continues. So, until they come to an agreement, that's going to go on.
Thanks to a lot of those of you when we mentioned that we could do what we could go into that every day. We're not going to be that podcast. We're going to do it when it's valid. Here's the question, though. So they do have an incentive-laden type distribution financially, correct?
Well, another part we failed to mention was the scheduling. There's talks about, for example.
No, I want to get into that because it's kind of hooked into this, not quite, but it is. So there is extra revenue incentives, correct? If you perform well,
right?
And it's so weird. The first year they started doing that, in a way, was to appease Clemson, Miami, and maybe Florida State, North Carolina. And Florida State didn't get any of that money.
No,
they didn't get any of that money.
But I think we had to give money back. I think, honestly, no.
But one of the things that I did, and Craig, you brought this up, this is the part that got my attention. I love bangers, football games with big names, alphas, logos. And that's what you were getting ready to go to, Craig, about Clemson and Florida State and others having a chance to play Notre Dame more often.
Yeah, I mean, for the Notre Dame needs to join a conference crowd, this was not great news. That's another party that's not too happy with today because Notre Dame's still not joining a conference, and they have less reason to now than they ever did before with their national championship appearance run. But part of what was talked about in the article I was reading was in addition to obviously figuring out kind of how to reward the money and do that perhaps a different way was the scheduling piece of this, which the main detail that was out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but was that they were looking at a way where Notre Dame, to, I guess, appease the biggest brands, they would play two of the three biggest brands in the ACC on a pretty much every year basis, and those would be Florida State, Miami, and Clemson. And so basically Notre Dame would be guaranteed, or those programs would be guaranteed, like every year you're going to play Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's guaranteed that every year they would be playing two of those three teams to give them two big marquee games.
Yeah, and that's mutually beneficial. And look, Notre Dame versus Syracuse and Notre Dame versus Wake Forest is not moving the needle like those other games are. And we talked about just yesterday about the Big 12 and how they messed up years ago by not having Oklahoma and Nebraska every year. Look, if you're the ACC, and this is about television ratings, and you have a partner like Notre Dame that can help you get those ratings, whose ratings are consistent. Like, the thing is, Notre Dame will have some big spikes, but what you do know from Notre Dame is every week they're getting at least like 4 million viewers. Like, 4 million every week for Notre Dame, no matter who they play. And when they play Clemson, they probably get 7. And when they play Florida State, they probably get 7. When they play Catholics versus convicts the first week of this year, they're probably going to get like 8 or 9. That's going to be a big deal game right there because that's going to be two teams loaded for bear and competing for the playoff right off the bat. So why would you, as a conference, be like, oh, no, we have this scheduling model that we have to rigidly stick to so that instead of Clemson versus Notre Dame, they will make sure that they play Pitt. And you're like, well, I mean, who cares about Clemson and Pitt if you can get Clemson and Notre Dame and help you out? Pitt, I don't think Pitt cares as much. Like they might. But
by doing that, it helps and it can hurt them getting to the playoff.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about a game that is obviously maybe a 50-50 split, but that's what the conference needs, and that's how when you start winning those games, and most of them are going to win more than often than not, you start to have nice quality wins on your schedule.
Well, and it's worth pointing out that next year Notre Dame doesn't play any of those teams.
Nope.
They don't play a single one of those three. So you talk about scheduling with a purpose and
the
biggest
Miami
games
next year.
Do they?
Yeah, I think Notre Dame starts.
Oh no, they do.
Miami.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. They play I'm sorry about that. They play Miami and Florida State in 26. They play Clemson in 27, and they play Clemson and Miami in 28. So I don't know how all that would be set up or changed, but that wasn't. I didn't notice that at first, but yeah, they do play Miami the first game next year, so that's good to know. But there are 2 of the next 3 years where they play only one of those 3 teams, and is that the best you can do for your TV partner or whatever? No. So it makes sense that one of the things in this story today was that you would play two of those three, and then vice versa, two of those three get the opportunity to play Notre Dame every year. So it seems like a win-win and a nice gesture and something that all those parties can agree on, even though they might not agree on a lot of the other stuff.
All right, so there we are with that story, the ACC, and the fact that this looks like it's good news moving forward for quite some time.
And I know there was the risk land taking and all that I talked about earlier, but if you are the Big 12, I know it's always felt like you're playing like this game of Survivor your entire life, and it's like it doesn't always have to be that way, and not everything's always like it's the end if this doesn't happen like every other day. I think this is good news. Like, you may have had a wish that they're going to go pluck brands. I mean, that could technically still happen years from now. But in the meantime, you kind of need voting partners. You need somebody beside you that's on your level or close to it, that you're not the third man out, right? You're not the third wheel on the date because this other conference crumbles like the Pac did or somewhat did. And then, you're left with, hey, it's cool. We got Pitt and Syracuse. It's like, oh, that's cool. The other two that were already more powerful and richer and everything, they got like the biggest brands, and so even more of a gulf gets created. So I do think that as much as it was fun to kind of watch from a Big 12 point of view, the Pac situation, I don't think it's the best for the ecosystem of college football, period, much less the specific conference for that to then continue on and then eat alive the ACC as well. So I look at this from that chair as a win all the way around for the time being. But, of course, things can still change in the future. But for right now, I think it's a good thing.
By the way, you talk about the scheduling. Do you know that this year neither Oregon, Michigan, or Ohio State will play each other in the Big Ten?
Yeah. There's so many teams.
I get it. And it's the, what do you call it, the algorithm or whatever. But it does seem like there are probably, I bet there are 8 teams, 5 teams, whatever, who will play all 3 of them. Now, I understand they still have kind
Rutgers
of some.
will.
Yeah, no, Rutgers, Maryland, Nebraska, Minnesota. But none of them are playing each other.
Yeah, PJ Fleck gets to wake up in the morning and look at the schedule and has to throw water on his face.
Yeah.
He has to loosen his tie. He take deep breaths.
And I'm telling you, I got to tell you, that just seems a little sleazy to me.
Well, we got sold
yeah.
the whole, there's going to be bigger matchups. So we have all these big TVs. And now we get Oregon, Ohio State, but we also get I don't know, for all the chart people out there or the people that love the putting together of projects, I would like to know if you stacked up the pre-ACC or the pre-SEC, I should say, and the pre-Big Ten of how many more big games were there? You're going to have more because you have more teams, right?
But what's the percentage compared to now duds?
Right. You're going to automatically have some because now you can throw Oregon, Washington on a weekend that otherwise you didn't have them. So you're automatically getting at least a handful of bigger games. But
you ever go on a website to buy a belt or something, and they have the wheel to spill? You click the wheel to see how much you're going to get off on that belt.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? And so you click the wheel, and one little tiny wedge is 90% off. Nobody ever really hits that. And the other one is 15, 10. It's normal things. That's what the scheduling model is. Occasionally, you might hit your Michigan versus Oregon, right? You might get Ohio State and USC. But most of them are going to be Oregon versus Purdue. That's what it's going to be.
Or Purdue versus Iowa.
Yeah, that's what you're going to get. So you're going to get all that stuff. That's the majority of the wheel.
All right.
But the other ones are somehow supposed to make up for it.
By the way,
Oregon,
Rutgers does play Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State
Yep,
next
I just
year.
wrote that down.
Oh, you have that too? Yeah.
You got to go up and go, and that doesn't include maybe 3 or 4 of the teams.
Washington.
Washington.
They play Iowa.
It gets overlooked quite a bit. Yeah, that you would love to see just once in over 4 or 5 years if that could be the schedule. Not that they still wouldn't win because they're really good, but it is interesting. Rutgers is at Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. But Oregon, Michigan, and Ohio State, none of them will play each other.
Well, Michigan and Ohio State will.
Well, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
They play because of the rivalry. All right, so there we are with that. There's a game tonight, a college football game tonight, the East-West Shrine Bowl. We've highlighted it a couple of times. Eric Galko, who runs it. And then, of course, we had Reese on yesterday, Owen Reese on yesterday to talk about a lot of the practices and players. Here's a list of the East team. Is that what you got? Yeah. Here are the all-practice team players highlighted since they started the workouts this past weekend. And there's Kyle McCord. There's a kid from Arizona, Krosky Merritt. Isaiah Nayor, who went from where was he first? Was it Wyoming to Texas to Nebraska? And then Gadsden, Paul, you've been high on him. His dad played in the NFL. Kobe Bryant and Mickens. And so there are some of the players brought up, at least from the east side, who have been the best practice players in the last week.
Yeah, and we have the West one coming up right after this. I'll tell you who on this list who I really love is Chris Paul Jr. from Ole Miss. He's a really fun player to watch. Not surprised to see a lot of these guys on it. Happy for Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, who got caught up in the weirdest eligibility thing ever. Which now after Diego Pavia, nobody would have said anything. But
is that the one that was denied at Colorado? What was?
So he was. Well, I think it was at Colorado. I don't know. He transferred into Arizona from somewhere.
Yeah.
But his first school was there was a confusion about what number he wore, and there's like a game that he might or might not have played in because they don't know the number, and it was a small school that, they couldn't verify one way or the other. And so the NCAA is like, well, he played one game. And he's like, no, that wasn't me. That was somebody else. But nobody could verify it one way or the other.
Yeah, that's back when they could do those kind of things. Now they can't. NCAA does that, they get sued immediately.
Yeah, he was at Alabama State in 2019.
Yeah.
And that's where he played. And then there was a claim that he only played in 4 games, switched numbers with another running back, and the other running back played in his number in the other 4 games. Yeah. And so that was the argument, and I guess the NCAA is like, no, we're not buying that. And so
Alabama State, I don't think, could produce anybody that was like, oh, yeah, no, here's a picture of him switching numbers.
Then there was another report that said he played in the opener and that he had ran for like 100 yards. And so then it was like, okay, wait a second here. And the NCAA is like, yeah, we're not buying that. And so they, as a precaution, held him out. And then I guess it never got cleared up enough to where they ever brought him back or felt they could bring him back. So that was a big piece that was missing from Arizona last year. It wouldn't have changed their season. They were still going to be a team that underperformed, but he could have helped them. And so, yeah, that's what that boiled down to. But he's moved on, and they've moved on, and I think it's great for him that he's being able to show something because he wasn't able to show anything this year, basically, and had to pretty much rely on his tape prior to that. So to be out there at the East-West Shrine Bowl is a big deal, I would imagine, for him, and to be named to all practice teams, an even bigger deal. Isaiah Nayor, I really thought at Texas he was going to have a bigger impact. I was wrong about that. He dealt with injuries and just dealt, I think, with being out-talented in a lot of ways as well. But then he goes to Nebraska, and I thought he would have a huge time there, and he was pretty good, I guess.
The game against Illinois that we attended, he was fantastic and he had a lot of those plays, and then it kind of like disappeared.
Yeah, he kind of faded, but I've always liked him, so cool to see him there. And then, yes, a lot of other standouts that you could sit there and talk about. But Kobe Bryant, for Kansas, a guy who has just been a stud for them. So that's going to be a big loss, but cool to see him doing his thing as well, amongst many others.
By the way, we'll hear from London Smith, the commit from University High. He'll join us in about 10 minutes. Committed to Baylor yesterday, had a huge offers list, and his dad, mom, and sister all attend Baylor. It's kind of a legacy. Great player. We'll hear from him just momentarily.
And by the way, if you're a fan of – I love how, East and West are absolutely just, it's like they pick teams now as opposed to, East and West because, to see Arizona, Cal, and Arizona State on this list is that Arizona State down there? Yeah. They're east of – hardly anything, but they're on the list. But here's the West team, and if you're a Texas Tech fan, you are represented in 2 spots here. In Taj Brooks and Jalen Conyers, who
we got that. Reese mentioned
Jalen Conyers yesterday. And so Max Brosmer from Minnesota kind of surprised to see him here. Also, early in the year, if you watch my top fives, I think Noah Williams made the list a couple times for things. He led the country in interceptions. Really, really, really fantastic player there. So, and then one I really like out of Ole Miss. Another one is Juice Wells, the wide receiver there. He's big. He's like a big body guy. So runs well. And again, Taj Brooks, guest on the show. Loved having Taj on the show.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a huge loss for Tech. I mean, I know they'll address it, and they've got guys and all that, but I'm very interested to see. And it won't be apples to apples because they're changing the offense as well. So you won't have, like, just the guy who replaces Taj Brooks. I mean, they're going to be running different things. But, I mean, he does leave a void that until you see it filled, you do wonder about. And just a legend as a Red Raider and a record holder. And, yeah, it's great to see him doing big things. I mean, Jalen Conyers, another former Arizona State Sun Devil as well. I mean, you think about the talent of that program lost. It starts with Jaden Daniels, obviously, but don't forget about Jalen Conyers, which was a pickup I really liked for Tech last year. He's a really solid player, had a good year for them. I bet you just wish that you had him longer, quite frankly. But, yeah, good to see a couple of Tech players up there. And, just a bunch of guys who we've seen stand out or maybe don't know that much about, and that's part of the draft process that I find a lot of fun too, is as much the guys you don't know that much about that are getting this opportunity as the guys that you do know a lot about. So it's cool to see these practice lists and things like that, even though I don't know how much of the game I'll actually watch. Is this the one that's tonight?
Yep.
Okay, well, if it's on the night, there's nothing else, right? So I probably will watch a little bit of it just to see the all-star action. But, yeah, good for those guys for having big weeks.
Well, two players, Matt Jones, the linebacker, Garmin Randolph, also playing in that game tonight from Baylor. And speaking of Baylor, one other note, Josh Cameron, their wide receiver who had a hell of a year. Remember, former walk-on, he will join us today late in the 4 o'clock hour. Garrett, did you find the actual, like the picture or anything with Arch Manning?
No, I couldn't find anything with Arch.
Arch Manning has signed a new NIL deal with Red Bull. Pretty good, cute little video, throws up the football, and while he's doing it, he gets a can of Red Bull, takes a shot of it or two, and Arch Manning, that's the newest with him. Now, this story here, and I don't know when the NCAA will ever actually win another lawsuit. This one is in the same neighborhood as Diego Pavia about junior college. Get an extra year if you played JUCO ball. Wisconsin DB Nizer Forsarine, who's a really good player, is asking for the NCAA to grant, or suing the NCAA to get an extra year of eligibility because he played Division II football. I watched highlights of him. I went on to make sure I got his name correct. He is really good, and he wants another year, and now that's another lawsuit filed by a player for eligibility against the NCAA.
JUCO and D2 are different things, though.
Like, D2's under the NCAA.
Yeah, it's under the NCAA. So JUCO is not. So that's where this is different. But I don't know. I mean, wouldn't be surprised to find some kind of legal precedent that, makes the NCAA lose this one. But JUCO and Division II are different things.
I didn't see the usual buzzards circling over this story from the lawyer side of things that you see on Twitter, the usual batch of college sports lawyers that dive into this pretty quickly when stories like this break. I just didn't think to go back and look into it more. Because quite frankly, the lawsuits all just sort of blend together, and I find those to be like my least favorite part of like a lot of what we talk about is legal stuff, but it's also a big part of what we talk about. So the initial reaction I at least saw, based on some people who seem to have a grasp on things, though, was that this doesn't have the same merit whatsoever as Diego Pavia because precisely he played in D2, and so that's under the NCAA, and so this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, quite frankly. But the sentiment also being that the NCAA is like 2-136 record-wise, so why not take a swing and just see if you land the knockout punch? Because I think there's probably a lot of other cases they should have, could have won, and they lost. So why not see if you can get another one here? But I also do see quite a bit now in regards to stories like this. Well, just give them unlimited eligibility.
I saw that.
Forget that, man. I don't want to see Nizer Forquerin playing as a 37-year-old at Wisconsin. Why would you want that? Why? Like, the fun if you did that, like, I know Arch Manning would find himself a space no matter what, but, like, you do realize, like, in the NFL model, like, the guys stay around, right? Mm-hmm. So the fun of college is that the roster churns and that you bring new guys in. So Quinn Ewers was cool, but now let's have Arch Manning. And you know what? Arch Manning will be great, and then it's on to the next guy. And that's you rotate it. And I know that's been a little bit different recently because you've got guys playing 6th and 7th, and the Miami tight end's on his 9th year, and whatever else. COVID threw everything into a frenzy. But I can't help but just think you just love chaos, because I don't know from an entertainment standpoint how that's the best for college football, is to have dudes who have aged out basically are still – hanging around like it's their life career. And I get why they're sticking around. They're making and are potentially making way more money as a 25-year-old playing college football than they'd make as a 25-year-old in the job market, or as a 25-year-old trying to play football beyond his college eligibility. So I totally understand it from their standpoint. I do not get it, though, from a fan standpoint. If you're a fan of college football, I don't know why in the world you would want unlimited eligibility, but I just see at least like a person mention that next to every article that's like that, and I'm puzzled by it. I don't get it, so I don't know if it's just love and chaos or what, but I hope we don't get to that point, because I'll tell you right now, I think my fandom would probably take a pretty big hit if we went unlimited eligibility, and that would not be
I think that's
college
already.
football.
I think, again, I'm not saying as fans, I'm never going to watch the Cowboys again when they fired Tom Landry, not that, but I do think there's a little bit of attrition there that will just only add to it if you just say, okay, everybody, no matter where they come from out of high school, you get 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years. 5 years of college football, and then make sure in the wording, no matter what level of college football, whether it's NAIA or Division III or JUCO, whatever, 5 years. And if you want to have some contingencies or some asterisks because of injuries, you can still do that. But 5 years to play, I think, would at least help solve some of this.
Yeah, and guess what, guys? Most of the 7th and 8th year guys suck.
Or they haven't stayed healthy or whatever.
I mean, they're just not good. Like, it's over for them. And, again, if you're not within 3 to 4 years getting talked about by the professional leagues, of which there are 3, it's not just one. There's also the UFL and the CFL that you can go and play in. If none of those 3 leagues are knocking down your door, I understand the NIL money is good, but if they're not, then I don't think you're helping teams win a national title or conference titles, because most of the time when you win those things, it's because you are populated at least partially with professionals.
Yeah, no, the best players are moving on after 3 or 4 years. I mean, they are, and maybe some extreme cases where you had injuries 5 years, but, I mean, it's not like that's being voted on next week or maybe even all that realistic, but I've seen it often enough now in the bigger picture discussions that I'm like, are there people that really want that? Like, really, you want unlimited eligibility? And not for, like, its ability to settle lawsuits. Like, if you're just looking for a way out of the courtroom, okay, well, that would be a logical way that you could probably do that. But I think you do some pretty irreversible damage to the actual sport itself, in the eyes of some fans at least.
How about unlimited years? But after the 5th year, you can't pay. You can't get paid.
Well, I don't know that would be
they
legal.
wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. But okay,
I'm all for you get 5 years, and if you play 5, great. If you play 4, great. You play 3, great. Whatever. But you have 5 years to play. If they could come to an agreement on that, I think that would be a good thing. But I know there's arguments, for other answers. I don't love the unlimited eligibility when I've seen that pop up. So.
Max Olson today at 4. We got a lot to get to. Mickey Spagnola will be at the Shrine Bowl game, the East-West Shrine Bowl game, tonight at the stadium at AT&T Stadium. He'll join us. We have Off the Radar with Craig and also Paul's Top 5. Garrett Ross, Andrew is here as they run the mothership. David Smoak and Paul Catalina. Craig Smoak, thank you very much for your time. We have just begun. We'll hear from London Smith, University High wide receiver who committed yesterday evening to Baylor, and more. And this is 365 Sports.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford, coming to you from our climate-controlled, warm showroom, letting you know that right now it is all about pre-owned cars. We've got a great selection of pre-owned vehicles. Right now, every pre-owned vehicle is priced to move. All our pre-owned vehicles are inspected by certified technicians and include the BK Advantage. Right now is the time to shop for a pre-owned vehicle at Bird Collision Ford.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
London Smith Jr., University High, made the commitment to Baylor on Wednesday evening. Thanks for your time, young man. Appreciate it. What's it been like, a local player, your dad, your mom, sister, the legacy there, but what's it been like since you made that decision public?
Oh man, it's been crazy, you know, nothing but love from the whole 254 area, to be honest. And it's just a blessing to be able to do what I'm doing. So to be home is just a blessing.
So this is something that you made the decision, you pulled the trigger. I kind of traded a text back and forth with your father. Was it something that you just, this was the time? Did you kind of surprise everybody, and why the decision now?
Man, the junior day was big. Got to see what I needed to see, you know. And I think this was a good time for me, you know. About to finish the basketball season, going into the off season. About to, you know, take some more visits, but Baylor just held it down for me, and this was just the right time for me and my family.
You know, there have been players locally that have committed to Baylor, but I think you're the highest-rated player since Andrew Billings, and he did that on our radio show back like almost a little over a decade ago, and I remember what was that like. What does it mean to you to stay here and maybe keep the high prospects in the Waco, Central Texas area around Baylor University?
Oh man, it means a lot, if I can get, the big prospects in here, from Waco to come to Baylor to play with me, that's gonna take Baylor way up and we're gonna win a natty, you know what I'm saying? But it means a lot. It's just a blessing, ranking really don't mean much to me, but to be the 11th rank, it's crazy. It's nothing but God for real.
Have you had some of the players locally? I saw a couple of them. I won't mention them because I don't, because they could be. I know they're being recruited heavily as well. Look, I saw Jamal and Vincent and Connolly with the big old bulgy eyes. And have you had reach out to you?
Oh yeah, Jam, my God, Jamari and Vincent, he hit me yesterday. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do my best to recruit him to get to Baylor. But he gonna take his recruiting slowly, but I'm gonna do my hardest. I'm gonna try my hardest to get him to come to Baylor with me.
Did you surprise your family when you made the decision? How did that go down? Did you talk to them first? I'm sure you did, but and then also get into the reaction of who you spoke to first at Baylor to tell them about it.
Oh yeah, so me and my family had that talk. I told them I was ready, and they was like, "No, let's do it." So that exact night, I called Coach Keenan Hall. He was like, "Oh man," he was the happiest guy, one of the happiest guys I've ever seen. After that one, so called Coach Hall first, then called Baker. And there was just nothing but love for real. After that, then it was just big. It was go time.
Well, you can do a lot of things. You have the ability to play wherever you want, and obviously DB, wide receiver. You're a wide receiver commit though? Is that right? That's what you want to go all in your hands, and you have this ability. Your body control is incredible. What has been did you get a chance to talk with Dave Aranda? You mentioned Keenan and others, but what did Coach Aranda say?
Talked to Coach Aranda last night. He's not, he don't show a lot of emotion, but you could tell he was real happy. Talked to him last night, and he's just nothing showing love, man. He's always showed love since day one for me. So it's for me to talk to him, he was just real happy, and for me to see him happy, that means a lot to me.
What did the family legacy mean in your decision?
Oh man, it means a bunch. Mom Baylor, dad Baylor, sister Baylor. I really just couldn't break the cycle. And Baylor did all they could to keep me here. I think they did a great job with me. Always texting me, always being there for me. So it was an easy decision, to be honest. And just the legacy, man, just to carry it on. It's crazy. It's crazy.
What's it been like at school today?
Oh man, all the congratulations, nothing but love, Waco University, that's where it's at, nothing but love over here. So been good, been a little calm, been a little crazy, but nothing I can't handle.
Yeah, you're used to the attention, but you're also in fact, you're extremely humble. What does that come from to stay even keel and not get too high or too low?
And all this could be taken away from you in a second. My dad keeps me big on that. You know what I'm saying? You never know when this could end. So, being humble, trying to be a role model for the youngest in this school, don't get too big headed. It could all be gone in the instant. It could be gone in the snap. So all that just means a lot to me.
K'Ron Johnson and what he's done for that program. I knew him when he played at Cuero High School, Baylor, and of course he's coached and he was at Midway. Now he's done what he's done at University High with the momentum that you all have, Trojans in football. How much has he meant to you along the way during this procedure too, during this process too?
Oh man, for someone to go through it, he just like my pops, he went through the recruiting process. So him always giving me the ear, telling me how to handle things, how to do things. He's been a big help in the whole recruiting process, But he's really a big factor in what I've done.
I've asked you about your family, Coach Aranda, Coach Keenan Hall, among others at Baylor, your school at University High. What has it? Do you realize what this means to Baylor fans that they have somebody here on the South Side? Doesn't matter what side, but that you have decided to pick Baylor because they have now gained a lot of momentum, and you're a part of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Baylor fans, got something big coming real soon. We're not done. We're not done at all. We might have another one just from right here, Waco, Texas, Devontae Kirkland. He might come to Baylor. You know what I'm saying? We're not done for sure. For sure.
You have had to deal with injuries, haven't you, man?
Man.
Nagging. I think you ended up playing like 8 games this year. You've put up steady numbers from your freshman year to now. How difficult London was this past year for you?
You know, it was difficult being out, but you know, all you can really do is just support your team. You know, I'm not the selfish guy, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going, my injury would have done this, my injury would have done that. All I can do is really support my guys. You know, they go on that field, they grind hard every day. You know what I'm saying? So just them seeing me on the sideline, you know, cheering them on, I think that gave them extra motivation, you know what I'm saying? Because like it could also be taken away from me, like it took away from me. So them just seeing me boost them up, boost their mentality, you know, like they playing for me and I'm gonna play for them when I get back.
London, what's it been like, the process, not just making the decision, but just overall? I remember talking to your father about a year ago, and you were kind of in a place where everyone, I thought, knew all about you, but maybe there's a time where you're like, hey, not so much look at me, but I want to play college football. What was that like for you?
Oh man, you know, it was nice. The recruiting process was nice, but I would say a big thing was, you know, relationships, building relationships with these different coaches, these different schools, and Baylor really just stood out for me. You know, Baker texts me every day, you know, always showing love for me. It was other schools showing love, but they weren't as consistent as Baylor. But the recruiting process was great, you know. It's a real blessing, you know. Not everybody gets the chance to go to every school, you know, in Texas. So for me, it was just taking it real slow, and just, you know, just going through it.
So you have made the commitment to Baylor. I asked recruits this, and I know it's a different landscape in college athletics than being recruited. So what do you do now? Are you going to still go look? Have you done what you wanted to do? This is a commitment. What does that mean to you?
You know, commitment, to me, that's a big word, you know what I'm saying? I'm not looking to decommit, but I will take some visits, you know, keep my eyes open just in case. But right now, I'm not looking to decommit, and I'm real solid to Baylor.
All right, so what do you think this does mean to Baylor that you're committed to them?
Oh, man, you know, they get the hometown kid, you know, grew up right here, you know what I'm saying? So they get the hometown kid. We looking to get some more kids from Syntex. You know, if they can get Syntex, they can get Dallas. You know, so for me to go to Baylor, man, it's just a lot, man. It's a blessing.
Hey, thank you for your time. I'm sure it's been a whirlwind the last, almost 24 hours.
Yes, sir.
Your face, appreciate your personality. Thanks to K-Ron for making you available, and also to the Smith family. Have a great day and enjoy it. Thank you very much, London.
Appreciate you.
All right, London Smith, Baylor commit, University High on 365 Sports.
I don't know if this leads to others in the area that might eventually end up at Baylor. I mentioned this in the interview with London. The last time that Baylor had a local player ranked as high as London Smith commit was one of our favorite stories ever, Paul, when we were actually on local radio with Andrew Billings committing, when everybody, including all of us, including Andrew Billings, and everybody else thought that he was going to commit that moment to TCU.
Yeah, no, it was great, but that's a big get for them. You got to defend your home turf, and they haven't really been able to do it lately. So this is a big get because they, you know, when you, a kid leaving Waco to go to Tech or to TCU or to Texas is a loss for Baylor because they didn't even offer LaDainian Tomlinson, and he's, you know, the greatest running back in the history of Texas Christian University, you know, or TCU now, I'm sorry. But like he was and so they can't keep losing those guys. Briles did a great job of, you know, building a little fence around Waco and keeping those guys here. It hasn't quite happened as much since then.
Now, you know, you had Ahmad Dixon and, of course, Ryan Stewart. These guys all turned out to be
Bo
really
Blackshear,
good players.
Bo
Blackshear, Tevin Reese was from Temple, among a few others during that run that they made, winning championships too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a problem with that though. Is like, then what do you go tell the dude from Austin who's got the UT offer when you're telling everybody, hey, stay in your backyard, stay in your backyard? That's the part of the thing that maybe recruits don't look at it that way. But I look at that, and they're not the first to put that message out there. Like, plenty of programs stay in the 406 or the 315.
The difference is no one's really been doing that here in the last decade.
No, but I mean, it's also what I'm saying though is when you go
double-edged sword.
Yeah, you try to go take a kid out of Dallas. Well, why should he leave Dallas? Because you're preaching that you should stay in Waco. So like that's where you can maybe get caught in the crossfire a little bit. But if it works, it works. And they haven't been very good at keeping the bigger players around here. So he's certainly one of those. His offer list is incredibly impressive. Bama and Auburn and Georgia and Texas and, just name all of the top teams right now, and he's got offers from pretty much all of them.
Every one of them, yeah.
So he's as big of a get as they've had in a really long time, and yeah, it's big to keep your guys home. So that is a really good deal, and just the enthusiasm that he seems to have for adding on to that and helping keep more of those guys around is that's a great thing. It's great news for the program.
There's not enough talent overall at the highest level to just, recruit Waco. There's some good talent. Believe me, there's 5 guys that are probably in that high 3 to 4 range, including Jamarian Vincent at Conley, who has former teammates who are at Texas. One of the things he did mention is if we could handle what we get out of Waco, then you can go to Dallas and get what you need to. Thanks to London Smith. Appreciate his time. His father was a hell of an athlete, Rodney Smith, from University High. He's now the Associate Athletic Director at Waco ISD. When we come back, Max Olson will join us. Josh Cameron, Baylor wide receiver, in about an hour. Craig's off the radar. Mickey from the Shrine Bowl, and also the top 5. This is 365 Sports. Get ready for the 4th annual Baylor Bold Weekend. February the 14th through the 17th inside the city through Baylor Athletics. This is from the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement with Paul Thorpe and also Doug Furch. You can get up to 8 posters each day to reveal what is a commemorative poster for all teams competing at home during that weekend. So that's an event going on. Go to Baylor.edu. Go to their Facebook page as well under Baylor Athletics for more information. If you have an event that you would like to promote that is outside of, let's say, Central Texas or even the state, but you need to let other Baylor alums that you may not be able to get in touch with know about it. It could be Washington, D.C., could be Chicago, could be L.A., then make sure you contact Paul Thorpe and Doug Furch, and they'll help you get the word out. And also stay in touch with what other events they have. The NCAA tournament, Baylor men's got to win some games to get there. The women's tournament as well, they do too. But when they do play, whoever they play, and if they get to the tournament and they're on the road, there will be events wherever they play. And the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement Department, Doug and Paul, will help you know what there's going to be. It's Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood
pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs.
365 Sports, we start this 4 o'clock hour. Max Olson, ESPN, joins us. Greg Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. We'll get to James Blanchard. We'll get to some of the portal news, but I want to ask you, Max, what were your thoughts when you saw the story about it appears, and it was always you would think the end game, the ACC and ESPN will be just fine.
I think certainly it's a big news. It's a big step in terms of, I suppose, kind of stabilizing the situation there. It does seem like, just kind of based on the details that I know David Hale and Andrew Olson had a report this morning about kind of some of the details of this. It does seem like the warring parties being the ACC and then obviously Florida State and Clemson. It does seem like they've been able to kind of find some common ground, find some compromise here, and set this up in a way where, in an ideal world for those schools, if they are succeeding at the highest level in the ACC, that they are earning more money for it, and that money helps them catch up a bit to the Big Ten and the SEC. I think that's obviously been the end game there, and I think that it just didn't really seem like those schools moving on to either of those conferences certainly didn't seem probable or imminent or anything like that. So I think this is probably the best that everybody can do. I think if you're kind of in the bottom half of the ACC, it's like these are the concessions you got to make because you've seen what it's been like to be Washington State and Oregon State and kind of get left behind, right? I mean, you don't want to be living in that world. So if you've got to take a little bit less money to kind of keep the family together, then I think that makes a lot of sense. So. Interested to see, will there be an element of this where there is a reduced buyout in 31 when all these other deals are up? We'll see if that's a door that those schools kind of leave cracked open. But, hopefully this means we're not talking about conference realignment for a little while.
Max, do you think that this will allow Florida State and Clemson and the ACC to move towards a settlement that at least everybody feels like they won and lost a little bit in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the perfect way to put it. I know Florida State's been pretty aggressive in their messaging about this. I think Clemson has seemed to try to, frame this as a little bit more exploratory of just trying to understand, what the costs would be if they were to try to exit the conference early. I think if you can get some of these, it's not guaranteeing that these schools will get this extra money. But if you're winning the conference, if you're, playing in the playoff, all that stuff, I think then, you're going to be getting the outcomes that you were kind of angling for here a little bit. If you're going to stay in the conference and be in an advantage position over everybody else in the league, I think that's ultimately something that they can accept in the interim. So, I would think that would help in terms of relieving some of the legal tension here. But we shall see.
Max, what was your thought, the James Blanchard story? And at least it looks like Notre Dame is more than interested in him. And your thoughts about what that would do to Tech?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this one resolves because I have no doubt that Joe McGuire and Texas Tech are going to fight to keep James Blanchard. I think that they put in a ton of value into what he brings to this job, and certainly he's already one of the highest paid GMs in the sport. And I think James Blanchard has a great situation in Lubbock, and I know like he got offered a job at USC last year. Like this is certainly not the first time that a big time program has come for James Blanchard, and I believe he even has talked to Marcus Freeman in the past about opportunities. So I think he's got a great situation in Lubbock, and he's told me that. I think he's very grateful for what he's been able to do there, the support he gets from Joe McGuire, the autonomy he has to really run the recruiting department, and those guys can go out and make offers and really kind of run the show there in a way that's different than a lot of other recruiting departments in the sport. So I'm sure Tech is going to try and put up a fight here to hang on to him. And I think James Blanchard is certainly established himself, in making the move from Baylor to Texas Tech and what he's done in Lubbock as one of kind of the top names in that field. And so, that's it's not surprising that a guy like Marcus Freeman, when you have an opening, you're going to give him a call.
Yeah, and it all started as a message board poster, Max, which is as improbable a story as you can imagine. How much? I
remember the A&M and Baylor message boards.
Yep.
Him posting with his strong takes on prospects, and it's been awesome. It's a hell of a story. It's been awesome to see his rise through this business for sure.
Max, what do you think? With Jim Knowles getting $3 million, with those coaches' salaries going up, what does that mean for general manager salaries as that job has changed just in the 4 or 5 years that it's been a job at college football?
Yeah, it's a little disappointing that the media salaries haven't tripled and quadrupled in this time too. That's a bummer. I think that the way that the GM job works now. And I understand, there's probably to just the average fan, it's like GM isn't that just a fancy term for recruiting coordinator or player personnel or whatever. But I think this role has become a lot more complex in the past year, and a big piece of that is just that these guys have to deal with all the agents now too. That's just an extra layer to in addition to recruiting players and recruiting their families and the high school coaches and all that kind of stuff. You really have to be. Now that we're kind of transitioning from the collective, spearheading the financial conversation to really the GM and the school taking that on, I think that puts a lot into the lap of the GM to have the, to be able to do financial negotiations with agents, with players. And then in addition to that, being able to, handle a cap here going forward and how you pay for a team and how do you budget out acquiring talent and retaining talent and all that. So, I think it's one of those, the pay has exploded. And I think that's good for everybody in that business. And, it makes sense. And ultimately the value they bring to your football ability, how coaches used to always kind of say our strength coach is like our other head coach. It's like he's a real number 2 head coach here. I think these guys have risen to that level where they are one of the 3 or 4 most important people in the building, and so for them to be continued to pay, get paid like their tight ends coaches doesn't make a lot of sense. So when these jobs open up, then a lot of guys get raises, and right now I think it's pretty deserved in terms of what they're having to do in these roles 24/7.
You mentioned his name a couple moments ago, Max, but what did you think about Jim Knowles' move from Ohio State to Penn State?
Stunning. Yeah, absolutely. And when you hear Jim Knowles after the fact talk about what it means to be back home, talk about, his growing up in Philly and what he thought of that program, you say okay, yeah, that makes sense. This is the job that it seems like in many ways he's always wanted. I don't know, I think he was involved with Duke last year. I don't know how much he really has ambition about being a head coach. I think in a lot of ways this is probably his dream job then. I think it's a big blow for Ohio State, and when these things happen, and when you lose your DC to one of your rivals in the conference and stuff, then you see a lot of kind of revisionist history about he wasn't that good. No, they had the best defense in college football this year, by every measure, scoring defense, yards per play, stop rate, everything. They did an incredible job this year, and I think that's it was a great move by Ryan Day, hiring him away from Oklahoma State. And I thought he did an excellent job over 3 years there. And it certainly just adds to the momentum and the perception that, we should be talking about Penn State as a team that is a national championship contender in 25.
Yeah, this was a gangster move in a way, I mean, Ohio State will find who they need and do what they need to do and take care of themselves. But I thought, that's like maybe as good as they've been, this is not something that they would go take that next step, which is good for them that they did. All right.
Remember, guys, this time last year, they hired Bill O'Brien to be the OC, and then he moves on, and you go get Chip Kelly. Wow, what a great replacement. I don't think there's necessarily an equivalent to Jim Knowles he could just go easily scoop up, but they're the national champs, so we shall see.
So tell us a little bit. He hadn't played a lot, a little bit. Hero Canoe, the Ohio State transfer to UT, another one of those, I'm not saying cookie cutter, but Alfred Collins and Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. I'm not comparing him to those talent, but that body that they seem to have inside.
Yeah, I think one thing that the Texas really nailed a year ago, because defensive tackle was a pretty clear need for them going into the offseason, really into the spring. You had Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton coming back. But, I think you saw what Bill Norton brought to that defensive front as a run stuffer was so impressive, and Tia Savea as well. So I think that, part of it is just you got to replace those bodies, and it's just great to have veterans at defensive tackle who can get the job done, and you're losing some seniors there. So I think that's Texas is a team that's going to have a lot of new faces next year. And I think they, on the D line, extremely talented and probably rotating a lot of bodies. And I think Hero Canoe adds to that. But that's going to be a defense that, they get Anthony Hill back, and I think he's a legit All-American. But, and Colin Simmons has obviously got a chance to be one of the best players in the country. But it'll be interesting to see kind of how can they, have guys step up and rise up here after just how elite, Janae Barron and a bunch of their seniors were this year.
Max Olson with his ESPN.
What do you think about Chris Ash at Notre Dame?
Yeah, a little bit surprising. I think Chris Ash is a name that I think hasn't really maybe come up in quite a while, really going back to, he had the 1 year as Tom Herman's DC at Texas and in the, I believe, the final year of the Herman era. And then I believe he went off to the NFL after that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, it's interesting to see, to have this many programs kind of competing for elite guys at that position and trying to find that next great one. I think Al Golden, obviously did an incredible job with Notre Dame's defense, and especially the way that they were able to, they lost guys throughout the season to injury and still played at an extremely high level. I just think it's going to be hard to find someone who gets them playing that exact same level, even with what they've got coming back. So, I don't think Chris Ash is a risky hire, but I think he's someone that's going to come in with high expectations and a lot to prove.
I don't know, Max, if the last time we had you on, if the Paul Gonzalez hire had yet been official. It's been a couple of weeks, 13 years at TCU, incredibly well respected, and that Dave Aranda adds him to his staff.
Yeah. I think Paul Gonzalez has got a terrific track record when you think of all the DBs that have come through TCU, especially in the Patterson era. And how many guys that, they were, 2 stars and 3 stars and athletes and guys that played other positions that developed into playing at an elite level at corner and a DB for TCU. So, really like that get for Baylor. And, I'm curious what you guys think when you look at the way the Big 12 is setting up here. Because I had this conversation. I'm working on a piece on Texas Tech and their portal class, and I had this conversation with Joey McGuire. They certainly feel like they have a chance to be one of the most talented teams in the Big 12 next year. But he mentioned BYU, Baylor, Arizona State. I think all teams that are bringing a lot back. I feel like it feels like it is still going to be a pretty wide open race this year.
I can't agree more.
I just want to know who we're going to pick last.
Who will end up finishing first?
That we essentially, christen as the new leader of the Big 12. If I were coaches right now, I would just call up people like us that have votes and say, hey, you know what? Go to hell. And then make me mad enough to say, all right, that's it. Arizona, you're last. And see what happens.
Who would it be? Would it be, for guessing today, would it be
well, the funniest answer is
UCF's got a new coach. I mean, Houston had a tough year. Oklahoma State, you're not really going to put them last, are you?
No, probably not. But the funniest answer is Utah because of just all of the talk leading in and then the finish last year. They didn't quite finish last, though. But, yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
Utah is capable of going worst to first if we put them last. That is possible.
Yeah. Certainly. And you know, I mean, I think maybe like Arizona's got to be down there till proven otherwise. I mean, even though Fafita's coming back. But I just don't know what you're really – Cincinnati – another team that I don't think there's really a lot of excitement around, so they'd be another candidate, I think, as well. But, yeah, I mean –
It might be Arizona. Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about that. That could be the case. I don't think it – like, obviously Colorado lost a ton, but I don't think anybody is going to drop them that far.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think they've got at least a good they got some good mojo right now. So I think, you know, it'll be a drop-off certainly, but I don't think it'll be to the bottom of the conference, no. So, yeah, I would say, like – just Arizona based on the uncertainty, and then, probably a Cincinnati, something like that. But I'm with you at the top, and I think you could even say, like, TCU could be really good for all we know with Hoover. And, I mean, who the heck knows? That's what makes the conference fun. It also makes it really hard for us media guys that don't know how to predict it because it's so dadgum.
I know. And Iowa State loses the receivers, but they don't really lose a ton else.
Yeah.
I think they'll be okay next year. Like, but all these teams we mentioned that we think will suck, they're definitely going to be tied for first place in the standings. So that's how this goes.
It's the Big 12 way.
I'm going to tell you right now. You said you're not going to pick Oklahoma State last. I don't really like what they've done in the portal so much, Max. I don't know if anything is inspiring my confidence there for a team that was bad and then lost a lot of their experience. I don't know what that means, but I might pick them last. Especially given the tension.
This is the thing that's like kind of flown under the national radar a little bit. I don't know if people have noticed this. Like, Mike Gundy is legitimately working with 10 new assistant coaches this year. It's just a situation you never really see other than after a head coaching change, right? So, that piece they probably, and then you add Haas Haney at quarterback too. Like, they're probably just a huge wild card in this thing.
Max, if you don't mind me asking, are a lot of the figures that we actually see or Twitter, and again, from people who are, reliable, and then some that are just throwing stuff against the wall, are some of the numbers and the figures in the portal to get a player legit? Are most of them legit in your opinion, or are they a little bit exaggerated?
Man, it's a great question. It's a conversation that's come up a lot on my end here in the last few weeks. Even with other media members, as we're trying to figure out how to cover this stuff. I think it's from a reporter standpoint, it's honestly very hard to pin down. And I think if you ask, and I've had this experience, like if you ask a player and his agent and the school they signed with how much money they got, you can get 3 different answers. And it's just hard to really know, like, okay, which one is the closest to being true? I mean, that's, I think there is a little bit more transparency now when you have these conversations with people about, we gave him $1 million or we gave him 500 or 400 or whatever. But it's hard to know how much you can really trust that stuff. Now, the more like speculative stuff, like Quinn Ewers got offered this or Jeremiah Smith got offered this. Mm-hmm. I think like that's tough to prove, right? I mean, it's tough to, if you like, you can hear whispers from people, and I think you got to make a decision about whether you're going to run with that or not. I think some of that stuff is real and some of that stuff is, exaggerated. And it's just, I think for reporters and for the public, it's kind of hard to sort and hard to believe. There's a player I heard he got $2 million, and I asked, and they're like, no, he got 1.2. It's like, that just happens all the time, where it's just like, these numbers can definitely be unreliable, and because of that, it's hard to know which ones you should take seriously.
I learned that lesson myself when DeQuan Finn committed, or at least he was looks like he was going to commit to Baylor and talk.
Sure.
And
sure.
I've known his agent for a long time, and we had a chance to visit with DeQuan. I never saw him up close personally, like where we could ask him off to the side, but that initially it was in 700,000-800,000, and then I heard more like 300,000-400,000. And I just was curious about that. That it's a lot of money, no doubt about it. But a lot of times,
right? That's a perfect example where like the school he doesn't go to is like, well, he asked for 750.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, that doesn't mean he got that at Baylor.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of thing. But that's what we're kind of dealing in. We're kind of dealing in rumors and speculation and single source stuff here sometimes. And it's probably inflated.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. So now that you're working on different pieces, did you get a chance to decompress it all after the season, or is straight into the portal? Because that's your huge beat right there.
Nah, brother, I got a kid. My kid's fourth birthday party this weekend. I mean, it never stops, man.
What's harder, like having 4 cell phones or a 4-year-old birthday party?
We're about to find out. We invited the whole class and everything, so it's going to be chaos.
What's the theme?
God.
What's the theme? We went to like a party store and we let him pick, and he was really feeling Paw Patrol that week, and then he hasn't watched Paw Patrol at all this week, so it's he's a bit flaky when it comes to pinning down his interest.
4-year-olds tend to be that way.
Yeah, I'm trying to
this
think.
week it's all King Kong and Godzilla, and next week, who knows?
Next week, do they still even have some like the stuff that I grew up with, like Tonka toys and G.I. Joes and stuff like that? Is what it was back then.
Dinosaurs are massive. I mean, it always trickles back to dinosaurs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great week. Max Olson, thanks for your time today with us on 365 Sports from ESPN. I'm trying to think of 4-year-old. I can't remember when I was 4 years old. I may not be able to remember when I was 44 years old, but what
Star
would
Wars.
it have? Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Craig, do you remember about that age of and I bought some of those gifts. I'm trying to.
Or He-Man. It might have been He-Man when I was 4.
I play
Wrestling
with G.I.
figures.
Joes.
Yeah.
I play with G.I. Joes.
Yeah. It's a sick thing that thinking about all the stuff that we had back when we were growing up and where it is now.
Yeah. No, I can tell you.
Collectibles and millions of dollars.
I did.
Y'all, I think people overrate how much worth some of their old stuff was. Like I got a box of old baseball cards. It's like, there might be a gem in there, but the odds are there's probably like nothing in there.
The thing about when my age of that time period, that run. Now, you might have Ichiro, or now it's from the Dodgers, Ohtani, whoever. But when I was that age, we're talking mid '60s. When there were a slew of Hall of Famers during that time, and all the baseball cards, but they're gone.
But the 90s baseball cards, they printed so many of them that it dropped the exclusivity of
when I was a kid, when we were first doing the show at my house, that was like my little COVID project, was reorganizing the baseball cards. My dad and I did the hobby together, and my dad didn't do anything halfway. So I was going through some of them that I think I'd never seen before. And he would just buy things that, like, if he saw a garage sale or something, and he would go and buy them, and he would be fun for us. But honestly, I could, like, if people came in the studio, like, my trademark of giving them a gift could be a 1991 Fleer Scott Radinsky card, because he bought a box with like 100 of them in there, and they're worth 2 cents.
Yeah.
Did
you sell your cards off?
What?
Did you sell your cards off?
No, I didn't. I did not. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I probably should, but man, it was such a huge chunk of my life.
Yeah.
And
Craig, don't you have a bunch of those old notebooks or whatever filled with them, or is that not you?
No, that was me.
That was you.
That's me.
Okay.
Yeah, I have tons. So I didn't. Here's the thing. I've got a bunch of extras that I didn't put into sets, and those are the ones I'd like to sell off. But the ones that I actually finished or or almost completed, those are the ones I'm going to keep. Or if I have I have a bunch of Bo Jackson and Nolan Ryan and Deion's and players that I liked, those are the ones I'll keep. The ones I need to get rid of are the ones that are just stacked up in my closet that are, for people who are trying to find a 1991 Fleer Scott Radinsky.
I thought that we were going to take a bunch of your stuff over to that. What's the name of that? Bankston's. And you had a bunch of Kobe Bryants or something.
Yeah, but they're worth like $100 altogether.
Oh, okay.
So what's the point? I might as well just hold on to those and see if they get worth more. But the big box of spare cards that's been sitting in the garage for 10 summers, it's a nice idea that's worth $10,000. The reality is it's worth maybe $1,000, maybe, and that's a big maybe. That's kind of what I've gathered from card collecting, because I've been looking to get rid of stuff, and I have a box of cards, but I just think that they're.
I'll give you $100 for them.
okay, I probably would give it to you at this point.
Well, and the reason why
Get out of my house.
Hey,
I went to
101.
Hey, Garrett.
I'll take 102.
Okay.
No, you're
Andrew,
paying that
103.
money. So I went into my closet, and I have a box. It's an old cigar box. It's filled with, like, old cufflinks. You have one of those, like, it's just a bunch of nothing. But it's, and so I found, and I've got, like, 3 boxes, like 1990, 1991, and 1992, never been open sleeves of baseball cards. And it combined might be worth $17.
Well, you can look it up. You can say, like, 1984 tops, whatever. And it's probably like $110 or something or whatever it might be. But, yeah, I have read articles because we all did the COVID stuff just to kill time.
Absolutely.
And one of those was going back home to East Texas, and I just looked under a table, and I realized how long has that been sitting there? And it probably been sitting there for legitimately like 10 years, And I pulled it out, and I was like, oh, that's where all my old cards went. And I just got into one of those modes, man, where you just get started on something, and you just are bound and determined to finish it. And I got through all of them. I didn't go and organize. It was way too many, but I did all that, and I felt great about it, so at least I know where they are. But then I started digging into it, and it's like there's plenty of articles when you Google it of like, those old baseball cards you think are worth a fortune? Odds are, like especially the 90s cards, those were so overproduced that those aren't worth as much. But like, the 70s and the 60s, like those are still possibly worth a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Now, though, you've got to get like the 1 of 1 million prism green, like signature version of the Paul Skeens card, right? And that's where the $1 million comes in. But like the Paul Skeens just regular card, I don't think is worth very much. You got to get like the exclusive, like 1 out of 100,000 type of card to make like real money off of it, I think, at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's and look, I found it more fun to like go through and
not everything has to be about money. Yes.
Yeah,
so
you
just enjoy it. Yeah.
Again, like if I took the cards I have that I don't want in there anymore over to Bankston's and they gave me $200 because that's probably what they're worth. You know what? Then I got $200.
No.
And so the rest of it's fine. I have $200 and the part of the closet's cleaned out, and Amanda won't say anything about it anymore. And so it's a double win. And that's all I get.
Or if you want to hold on to them because $200 isn't enough to part, then I understand that as well. Because not everything has to be about money. I'm at the point though where like I don't have any sentimental value for the big box that I have. It's mostly just like cards just stacked in there. So I would be okay with parting with those. But I came across a bunch of Kobe's, and I was like, Did I finally get lucky with something? Did fortune finally favor me? And it's like, no, these are all the versions that aren't the hologram versions that are actually worth like the $100,000. But maybe if I hold on to those will be worth something.
$100 is my bid for that box of whatever you have, even if it's just a bunch of junk. I love collecting cards back in the day, but we used to damage the cards. We didn't know. But, okay, enough of that. All right, well, around the corner, Baylor wide receiver Josh Cameron will join us. Utah, let's do that now, Garrett. The Utah Athletic Department, Paul, you popped this up there, $17 million deficit following the Pac-12. Remember that money they had to pay they all had to pay back to Comcast, which was a Pac-12 nightmare. And then, of course, the move to the Big 12. That's a pretty big chunk. They'll make it up. They'll get more money, but that's an interesting note because a lot of the stuff about the realignment, like the basketball coach Cronin at UCLA about 2 weeks ago was talking about, we got to go to the East Coast like 3 or 4 times and they only have to come out here once. Hello, that was something that should have been thought about before you made the decision, but you were still going to leave the conference.
The coaches all thought about it.
Yeah.
The administrators are like,
shut about it a ton.
The administrators are like, shut your mouth. You make a lot of money. Shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Shut it.
Yeah.
Here's more money to stuff in your mouth to shut up.
Yeah,
and not
shut
say
it.
Anything.
Just shut your pie hole. Like, don't mess us up, Mick. Like that's kind of how they were. But I thought the funniest thing there, it's not the exit to the Big 12, was that, man, did they really get screwed by that Comcast overpayment thing where you have to operate a deficit for something that wasn't Utah or UCLA or Washington or Wazoo. Like, that was nobody's fault at a school level. That was all about Larry Scott and being shady as hell and say, "Oh, no, it's don't tell anybody. It's fine. They'll never notice. They're Comcast. They've got a $10 billion market cap. They're fine. They're fine. They're going to notice. They have that market cap because they notice things eventually.
Well, they've made money the last couple of years, but they lost a ton of that $17 million deficit, lost $31 million during COVID. And so they're trying to dig themselves out of that.
I don't have a ton for Off the Radar because we're kind of like in that pre-Super Bowl. So I was going to probably say this, but I won't. I'll just use it here. I did see a tweet from Bob Thompson about Apple and streaming, and we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about who was it that brought up streaming again. We were talking about, well, maybe streaming is the future. Yeah. What was that about? I know we were talking about WWE moving Monday Night Raw over there, which is a big deal, and Netflix has done that. They did the Paul Tyson fight, the Paul Tyson Khan fight. They did the NFL Christmas Day games.
Yeah. Yep.
So maybe that's why we got to talking about them or whatever, but we got to a point where the conversation turned towards, well, maybe the Pac did know what they were talking about with the streaming.
Yes.
Well, Bob Thompson's tweet flies in the face of that because they're now having to make some changes with their MLS situation, and so it doesn't look like that's the case. Like, streaming's definitely part of the present. It's definitely a big part of the future. But just going back to that conversation about what all Netflix is doing and then seeing the latest Apple news on MLS, like, I don't think the Pac-12 made the wrong decision. I think that they probably, if it was all streaming like it was supposed to, I do think that would have been very difficult for them to navigate based on what we saw with MLS. And I don't know about you, Paul. Paul's like, Mr. I got every app and I watch every TV show. Apple, I don't need it for anything, honestly. I really don't.
I love Apple.
I mean, that's great, but I'm somebody who I have no reason to have
Lasso.
Yeah, I don't watch any of that.
Great stuff on Apple.
But I think everybody has Netflix, though. But it's just interesting that, like, the streaming is clearly where we're going. But if you were wondering, well, because the Netflix is making all these moves, did the Pac actually have it right? No, they still didn't. It would have been all Apple. It would have probably been a disaster for them as expected. But still, it's an interesting ecosystem to track here over the next few years.
Okay, well, both of you can't see my laptop, I don't think. I got to make a business decision to get an email to somebody for our Super Bowl banner.
Left.
Okay, all right. Here we go. Nebraska, which has always had probably the most attended spring football game, because really that's their one thing they do is college football, even though they have not been good at it. But the fans have had their hopes raised like, other fan bases, but that's where people go. And they're not going to do a traditional spring game either, starting coming up, I guess, when they have the game scheduled in late April. That's the place that would make money on a spring game, you would think, although maybe it's free to get in, but they're not going to do it. This is the trend that has started and of course, with the transfer portal, more and more so.
Yeah, they've got to punt this. Pun intended, I guess, but they've got to get rid of the spring games altogether. This is not the functionality of the calendar is at risk here, and I don't think any coaches. I think if you surveyed the coaches, if we went to the convention and you said, could we get rid of the spring game and do OTAs, there might be 10 in the whole room that are like, I like the spring game. Most of them would be like, no, it's another thing I don't have to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know what the future of them is, and I don't really have a strong opinion on that one way or the other. I do know for myself the last couple of years going to a spring game, I've been very much the opposite of how I felt early days doing it, where it felt like a big deal and it felt like a big event. Like, oh, here's another opportunity. Now, granted, I was a little bit fiery when I was younger, and I was on Twitter a lot more and trying to be like the report everything guy, and now I'm not at all. So there's a difference there, but it's more than that. It's just, it's just not really of interest the way that it used to be, probably because I don't know who some of the guys are yet, or they just got there, or I don't know, but it's not like we're covering a school that was big into that like Nebraska was to begin with, so it just felt even that much less important. Like, I feel like you could do away with it, and I don't think anybody would notice, honestly, at this point, around here at least, and probably a lot of other places. But in Lincoln, Nebraska, which they really made that out to be a big deal in one of those schools where, like, we've got 45,000 people here. If they're even saying, like, yeah, this ain't even worth the squeeze anymore, then that's probably a sign that it's going the opposite way of what it meant importance-wise for most of us growing up, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just another thing that's everybody tries to do it, but only 5 schools have big deal spring games. All the rest of them, even some teams that are obsessed with football, people don't go. And try rolling into a spring game a couple years ago when Baylor's coming off, ending the season like they did, and then winning 2 games or whatever it was. I remember that second year of Matt Rule, like going to the spring game, and it's like no traffic, nobody there, nobody outside cooking. They won a game the year before. So your enthusiasm for the spring game is only based on how you ended the season before.
Yeah. In certain places, but that's
or hope for the future because you just hired a new coach and he's getting you excited. Like I bet West Virginia's spring game will be jam packed this year with Rich Rod. Like it'll be a whole thing.
Just like, and let's be honest, even though there's a huge fan base at UT, when they went through that 10 years of not really knowing, when they went to Charlie Strong, you want to show that fever if you have it, and then of course when they went to Sark, same thing, and it does get the fan base juiced up. They want to see what's coming next, and sometimes. Yeah, it can be a beatdown. All right, when we come back, just around the corner, Josh Cameron, Baylor wide receiver and All-American, the All-Conference player this year, former walk-on, and where he is now. This is 365 Sports. Don Shumador and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center. Joshua and Cheyenne own the company, and they're inside the Town West Shopping Center and a 48-foot walk-in humidor. Now, almost every year at an NFL media party at the Super Bowl, when they do that, it usually is like on a Tuesday or Wednesday, there's always, not a kiosk, but there's always a setup where the media party is where they're handing out cigars, like rolling the cigars and handing out. It's a company that's getting publicity to be around, and they're also selling their product. And I look forward to that every year to get something a little bit different. And it's always cool and interesting to kind of hear who owns that business and all the guys that are hanging around there to get themselves a cigar. You, if you live in the Waco area, the Central Texas area, Don Shumador can take care of you. 48-foot walk-in humidor, Vita Dreams, a CBD at night to help you go to sleep a little bit more relaxed. And for tough days, they have, for bad days, the DVD or the gummy for that too. Don Shumador and Coffee Beans between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
365 Sports in this late part of the 4 o'clock hour. We turn the corner. We'll have Mickey Spagnola from the East-West Shrine game. That's tonight, the Shrine Bowl up at AT&T Stadium in Arlington about 5:30 today. Craig will have a different version of Off the Radar a little bit after our conversation with Baylor receiver Josh Cameron. I was diving into the chat room and trying to find out what would have been something that was a topic that everybody's talking about that we're not, which could be about anything. You ever been in there, Paul, the chat room?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. They call me Comrade Catalina.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I did too.
I know.
Kim Coulter.
I'm a big-time communist.
Why is everybody slobbering over Colorado? I don't know. I know we haven't said that. We were trying to figure out how are you going to vote that godforsaken Big 12 1 through 16, because we've always messed it up badly. I have personally. And, who are you going to put at the bottom? It's still way too early for that because a lot of talent can be acquired between now and when they send us that email sometime in late June, early July. Katie Rader was talking about a spring game. He goes, I like the Katie Rader. I like the Tech spring game when it was moved in Midland. But didn't they have that and then they had to move it again to a high school stadium or something like that recently? I thought I remember that. I believe that's something that I said or remember from a couple years ago. This is something that I've said. I remember one of the first times I ever asked Art Briles during a spring practice, why don't you guys scrimmage other teams in August? Like the NFL has those 3 preseason games. Now they want to have maybe none. Why don't the colleges have a scrimmage in August? For example, let's say it's Sam Houston State Baylor, or it's A&M against UL Monroe. It doesn't have to be a score. But would that not be something that would work? And really, nobody could ever tell me why it wouldn't. Because injuries. Well, you're going to have that in a spring game anyway. As long as you have it somewhat contained and controlled, I think that would be a really good deal in August.
I mean, Miami plays Florida A&M almost every year. And the coach, Joe, that used to be at Florida A&M, spent a long time advocating for the guarantee games to go away because of the injuries that happened, because you're, for the most part, talking about bigger, stronger, faster players playing these other teams. I think a controlled scrimmage would be a lot more interesting for people to go and watch than orange versus green, red versus white, green versus gold in a scenario where it just would bore me, otherwise. So yeah, I think that'd be better. That's not going to happen, though, because, again, they're going to go to OTAs, because I think the coaches want to get less pomp and circumstance out of these things and just make it more about the football. In the spring game, it has to be a whole thing, right? You can't do one and not make it a little bit of a thing where you have player of it. They already have so much going on. I think this is one thing that they can do to kind of get back control of what makes it easier to do their job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it seems like it would probably be a pretty good idea. I don't know what was his reason as to why it didn't happen.
He couldn't give me a reason. About having playing scrimmage in somebody in August. He said, I don't know why we don't do that. Of course, he's got the high school background, and so that's what they do, 1 or 2 scrimmages that you have before the season starts when he was at Stephenville or elsewhere.
I mean, I guess you're worried about injuries, and you don't want your starting quarterback playing Florida in a meaningless game in March or whatever, so that would probably be a pretty big drawback. And all for the sake of what? Getting a few thousand people to show up? I mean, no, it's really for the coach to get your team better, but I don't know that you need to scrimmage Georgia Tech in March, and that really makes you that much better in August. So I could see where that's the holes you pick in that, and what's the point of all this effort just to play it this early? Now, if you did it in June, that would be a different story.
Mm-hmm.
If you did training camp, that would be totally different, but that's a completely different subject because we're then talking about fall camp stuff and summer stuff rather than traditional spring. So
it was Chris Kleiman that when we had him on during this back in Big 12 Media Days is the one that discussed wanting to have more of what they do, push a lot of things into June with OTAs rather than going through all of what you do, 15 or so practices during the spring, and then you have a spring scrimmage or a game or whatever you do, and then within a week, half that team is gone. And so he thought, push it back into June, at least most everybody most likely will still be around. And then you could focus in on that. I don't know what the answer is. The coaches are the ones. You would think they would know what's best, but I don't know if all of them agree on it, of what you do rather than a spring game. But there are times Nebraska's probably had 75 or 80,000 people, which is about as large as their stadium is, at a spring game. And it's just it's a pretty cool scene. But that is, when they start to look at it that way, doesn't mean like they're like learning something new. But when they get away from it, then that says something to me about where we are going when it comes to spring football and college football at the same time. Please, if you haven't, hit the like and subscribe button. We appreciate you doing that. And then also, if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you have, tell somebody else about it. We would appreciate that. And 365 Sports Tonight, 4 separate segments that Emory edits from what we have with our content, and then we play it at night at 10:30 on the CW. So we look forward to also seeing you every night at 10:30. By the way, somebody asked me about the James Blanchard update. I haven't seen anything on him. Have you, Paul, Craig?
No, not yet.
I haven't seen anything on him, and I would not be surprised, and maybe I haven't mentioned Tech in an hour, so I should, Kim Coulter. Maybe there's going to be somebody that they have, and a lot of the money that they have, maybe they're going to be able to keep James Blanchard, write him a bigger check that he's making now instead of perhaps Notre Dame.
I mean, at some point, you just can't keep paying him money, and everybody keeps coming around unless he's just intent on staying there, which, I mean, maybe he is. I don't know. I haven't seen any updates either, but that would seem to me to indicate that maybe there's some negotiating or some conversations clearly still happening behind the scenes. If he doesn't take that job, I don't know what job he would take, because there's few and far between that are much better at this stage, and clearly he had USC or whoever Max was talking about, amongst others we probably don't even know about. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be and continue to be a coveted guy, but I haven't seen anything that's official on Notre Dame just yet.
All right, Josh Cameron, Baylor wide receiver, walk-on, great story, unbelievable story. Joins us with Craig and Paul, David Smoak on 365 Sports. Josh, thank you very much for your time. So you're kind of in between the offseason and eventually what you guys do when you get to practices in spring. What is your schedule? What are you doing right now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So this is winter or spring training, whatever you want to call it. So right now we're just doing basically just lifting, working out, just kind of getting field work, kind of those kind of things. So right now I'm lifting kind of in the afternoon. So I go to class in the morning, kind of go throughout my day. Then in the afternoon, that's when I have my lift. And then most of the time I'm doing extra field work, whether that be catching some balls or just getting extra footwork, things like that. And then so yeah, no, that's kind of what it is right now. So it's a lot of on your own time, I guess you could say. So it's pretty intense, I guess you could say, starting off. So Coach Vic and the crew is definitely getting us right for sure, though.
Josh, you began your career as a walk-on, and that is something that's changing in college football, about how many guys will be walk-ons and how many guys will be on scholarship with the new roster limits and all of that. What was the hardest part of your journey, and what part do you think really made you the player you are today?
Hardest part of my journey? Honestly, I would say really just the transition from high school to college. I think that's the hardest part, really, for every player. Just getting adjusted to the speed of things, getting adjusted to the tasks that basically are required at hand. It's a lot. And then being a walk-on, you're already basically starting at a disadvantage compared to other scholarship guys. So I think just using that extra level of work and dedication, really just to propel me forward was the biggest thing. I think going back to literally just being a walk-on in general is kind of what pushed me to be the person I am today. I just remember back in freshman year, it would be after really every practice, me and Jonah, my former teammate, would just be working out, getting extra work, basically all the time, just always remember what the goal is, and that is to get on scholarship. So I think really just the journey and just the grind and the unseen was the biggest thing that really just made me who I am today. And so I just always carry that with me, especially now, knowing the position I'm in today, always just looking back and thinking about the journey. So that's what really just keeps me going, just really just propels me even more to take that next step and to keep on pushing forward.
Josh, what's sort of the motivation and I guess just the feeling coming off of last season? Certainly successful in a lot of ways, some games that you probably wish you would have had back. And the ending, obviously, I know that LSU was a big opportunity and that didn't go the way that you guys wanted. But how are you just feeling about the totality of it all and how does that carry you into the offseason, so to speak?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm really proud of the guys last year and the team last year for really just sticking through the ups and the downs. Starting 2-4 definitely wasn't what we wanted or planned, but I'm saying after that bye week, I could just definitely feel an energy shift in the team, and the guys were really bought in. So then after the Texas Tech game, we just kept on stacking. So it was definitely huge. And then kind of moving forward, I think guys are just realizing what we're capable of. The guys that came back, and then those guys are spreading that to the new guys that came along. The transfers, freshmen, things like that, and just creating a different culture of like, all right, this is what we're about, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to accomplish it now. So I think that has been a huge kind of game changer moving into this off season. So there's a whole lot of motivation. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the end goal is to win the Big 12 championship, to go to the national championship and beyond. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my personal goal for this team, and I just want to truly give back to Baylor because it's given me so much. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to winning that Big 12 championship for sure.
I got to tell you, Josh, it's a great story. I know others have told the story, but what you've done and who you are and the productivity, you even maybe with your play and style rallied others that were at the wide receiver position to want to try to catch up to where you were. You were overlooked, and now you're basically all but an All-American. Did you ever think you had that in you?
I'm gonna be honest. Coming to Baylor, I really think really All-American and all that stuff really wasn't on my mind, if I'm being honest. Like I said, coming in as a walk-on, my sole focus was to get that scholarship and then just see what would happen beyond. So I'm just honestly truly blessed and just really truly thankful for all the coaches that have just kind of mentored me and got me to this point. And so it's definitely an awesome feeling, and I'm just super grateful to be in this position, coming from walk on to this point. So it's awesome.
So Josh, I don't know how much you can talk about it, but yesterday the program landed a big local commit from a wide receiver in London Smith, and just in the last 20 minutes, they've landed Jamarion Vincent from Connolly, big-time 4-star prospect. I don't know if you can even talk about those guys, but in general, what kind of momentum do you feel?
I don't think you could talk about them specifically, but you could talk about the momentum.
In general, what kind of momentum do you feel about just the way things are going and kind of the wave of energy that the program has at the moment?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that just goes back to what I was talking about before, the team last year and just all the hard work, effort, and just belief that we put into that season. So I think when our team, when the guys inside the team start feeling that, it just starts spreading like wildfire. So not only were the people inside the team seeing it and inside the program, people around the country and just all over starting to see it. So I think that definitely plays a good effect, and you can definitely just feel the energy, the momentum, and just kind of that feeling of what Baylor once was, and how we're getting back to that true Baylor, the true Baylor swag, I guess you could say. So it's real cool though, for sure.
Josh Cameron, Baylor wide receiver, and let's not forget a great punt returner too with us on 365 Sports. Josh, you I don't know if it was your sophomore year, Baylor went to Lubbock and won. And I think you started that game. And I believe I don't know if you were still a walk-on at that point because I don't remember exactly when they were awarded. But I was told that when you came out of that game, you were kind of down. That you didn't, you had to start, you didn't play well, you were kind of letting that kind of maybe frustrate and overcome you a little bit. Do you remember that time, and what was that like? Was that one of your lowest points of your career?
I actually do remember that now that you bring it up. So I think, what was it? Yeah, so it was the Texas Tech game, and I remember I had an opportunity. I think I dropped like a touchdown pass or something like that, or something bad went wrong, and I just remember that kind of stuck with me. and it was just kind of getting me down, and I was feeling basically I was really just self-absorbed and all into myself. But kind of looking back and kind of moving forward from that moment, I realized that it's truly bigger than myself. And I think in the position I'm in today and how I've just grown over the years, I know that at the end of the day, as long as we win, like, I'm happy. So I think really from that moment, I remember I had talked to my mom. She was just telling me, like, it's going to be okay. You're going to bounce back and just keep on moving forward, because that's all you can do, and that's what you've been doing your whole entire college career. So I think just that really propelled me forward and just take a next step and just completely change my perspective, because it's really not about me at the end of the day. So, but like I said, same thing has happened kind of in past seasons, or even this past season, where I haven't had the best game, but hey, we won the game. So I'm truly happy. I'm happy for the guys that did their thing on the field, that just truly excelled, because I can have the best game there is, but if we don't win, then, you know what I'm saying, people won't remember, like, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I think that moment was really a good just growth for me overall, for sure.
Josh, what would you rather do? Because I'm sure, I know you've done a lot of, because you're an excellent punt returner. But look up and catch that punt, knowing that the gunners are coming at you, and you know kind of hangs up there in the air for a minute. Or would you rather be the first guy to fall on a fumble?
Interesting. I would say punt return. You got to be punt return for sure, because there's an opportunity. I think possessing the ball is cool, but then with punt return, there's also opportunity to put points on the board at the same time. So I got to go punt return. Also, like you said, I am a punt return too, so I do have a little bit of bias.
Yeah, but like the bottom of a pile, and look, I was on, like, in high school, I was like, it is a genuinely scary place, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it can get rowdy for sure.
Yeah. You don't know what's going to happen to you. You don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely. I gotta go with punt return. Like I said, it is a little nerve wracking at first, but like I said, once you rep it a whole bunch of times, you kind of get used to the timing and the flow of things, and like I said, you don't even think about it anymore. So, yeah.
Your mother, who obviously the relationship, she's very proud of you, as she should be, and she listens and watches our show occasionally. She just adores you, as mothers do. But I asked her, I said, can you kind of give me a description of your relationship with Josh, because we're going to have him on today. And she brought up she went through hell at the end of 2023. And she sent me a picture that we're sharing with you and your mother, Andrea, that at the hospital. I mean, double lung transplant. And then she also went into cardiac arrest or whatever at the same time. I don't know, whatever. What was that time like for you, seeing her like that and also watching her fight for her life?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, it was definitely a big, heavy emotional time for not only me but my entire family. But I just remember at that time, I honestly thought everything was kind of normal. Because my Nana and my aunt were basically protecting, like, me and my brother from telling us about the cardiac arrest. So I just thought, I was like, I mean, I guess this is a part of a double lung transplant, not learning how to walk, learning how to speak again, all that stuff. And then it was like maybe like a month or two after my mom, she started talking, walking, things like that again. Or not, I guess still learning how to walk, but she was talking, all that stuff. But yeah, she just came out and told us, like, yeah, I went through cardiac arrest for 19 minutes. I was just like, what? So yeah, it was definitely a crazy, scary time. But I'm honestly so glad that she just persevered through it all. You know what I'm saying? She tells me all the time about how much of a trying time it was in her life and how she's never been through something like that before. And I think that just kind of encouraged me even more, knowing what my mom is going through. So I remember, like, going through, like, spring workouts during that time, and I was just like, man, like, this is nothing compared to my mom. Like, I got to keep going. I got to keep doing this for her. Like, this is nothing, basically. So, and she was saying the same thing about my workouts basically, and we were kind of just basically feeding off each other's energy and just really just growing and getting better together. So it was definitely a real emotional time. But you know what I'm saying? God just has given her a testimony now, and she's just spreading her testimony to others and just encouraging others to put your faith in Jesus Christ, because that's all you can do at the end of the day. So yeah, no, it was definitely scary, but I'm truly thankful to have her still in my life for sure.
How often did you go see her in between, like the I guess the series of spring workouts and drive down to Houston to go see her?
Oh yeah, so couldn't really do it like during the week because school and there's just not a lot of time. So I'd really just try and go during the weekends to go and see her. Usually leave like Friday night, stay a little bit Saturday, and then come back on Sunday, go to church and things like that. So it would mainly be the weekends, to be honest. But she would always try and tell me, like, don't worry about me, just keep on going, things like that. I'm like, sure, of course I'm going to worry about you. I got to see you, my mom. I got to see how you're doing. So, but no, that was kind of like the main time I was going to see her. It was really just the weekend.
One of your hobbies is you run a car detail business. Is that correct? And how did you get into that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm really big into cars in general. One of my friends back home, his name's Will. He's the one that actually got me into cars. Really back during like COVID, to be honest, got me looking at cars, different things like that. So I was just thinking, just kind of, surfing YouTube like you like to do every now and then. And I just saw like kind of car detailing, like, satisfying car detailing videos. And they just kept popping up. I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, how do I get into this? And just started doing research. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is a low cost basically to start. And there's great returns if you really just stick with it. So, I just decided to start a car detailing business to be around cool cars and just make them look clean again type deal. So, that's really how I got into it. Just scrolling YouTube one day, something piqued my interest. And so, it's been real fun, though, for sure.
Who was the friend that got you interested in that?
His name's Will. He's back in he's back in Austin. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is Silva?
Oh, that's my new car I got, actually. That's what I named her, Silva.
Everybody has a name for their car. Have you seen Calvin Simpson Hunt's car yet? Is he in town yet? The young cornerback from Ohio State. Have you heard about this one?
I've not seen his car yet.
He has, what would you guys call it? It's a Marvel car.
It's the
Black Panther, and it is.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's bringing that down from Columbus, and he didn't want anybody to try. He didn't want to pay anybody to take it or move it down here because he didn't want anyone to get near it. So you're going to have to negotiate with him about maybe your detail. He is.
I got to talk to bro for sure.
It's unbelievable. We can't show it to you because you can't see the video. It is incredible. The Black Panther car that he has, that he's bringing down from Columbus, Ohio. Now, every young boy growing up thinks they're going to play Major League Baseball, depending on what years or what decades. And you told did you tell your mother and your parents that you were going to be able to play pro football even back in elementary school? And do you remember that dream back then?
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, I remember, I think, how old was I? I was probably honestly around 5 or 6. And, you do the little assignments in, like, elementary school, like what do you want to do when you grow up? And that's always been my thing, NFL player. So ever since I can remember, honestly, I've always told my parents, like, yeah, I'm going to make it to the league. I'm going to play for the Cowboys. I'm going to do this and that. And so, it's always been a dream of mine for sure.
They need your help, Josh. They need your help.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They need all the help they can get.
No,
I'm a fellow tortured Cowboys fan, Josh.
It's all good. It's a little rough. Right now, but we're going to come back stronger. We always do. It's all good.
Did catching punts, fielding punts, actually make you a better wide receiver, avoiding defensive backs?
Honestly, I would say probably, to be honest, because I think just that initial reaction of really punt return is just make the first guy miss and see what you can do with it after that. And so I kind of noticed that when it got to receiver, I started carrying that same mentality, is like make the first guy miss and basically see what you can do after that. So I think they really go hand in hand, honestly. So I think it's been real cool to see really my receiver play, yards after catch kind of change after doing punt return.
I think it has. I mean, the distance and making people miss, that's a scary thing, catching a punt when the guys are coming down and you know they're coming down to knock the living hell out of you. No doubt about it. Has there ever been a time when you caught a punt where you were hit, or even when you were about to catch one, where you basically were all but knocked out?
There hasn't been a time like that. There has been a couple times in practice where I've gotten ran into, but it hasn't been like anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
No, it did actually happen I just remembered it in the Texas Tech game, where the dude ran into me on it was the first punt return. Yeah, he ran into me and we got the 15-yard penalty or whatever. So that's the craziest situation I've seen though in punt return.
I think you got to have a screw loose to be a punt returner. I really do. I think you got to, or the ones who are going down to cover kicks or whatever. But Josh, it's a great story. I know you still have many chapters you want to write. It was a nice way, despite the bowl loss, that the way you guys turned the season around. And I can sense, and I know you can, the excitement building for 2025. So good luck the rest of the offseason and into the rest of what you have this year.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Josh Cameron, Baylor wide receiver, with us on 365 Sports. His mother described him as loving, caring, intelligent, passionate, loyal, driven, fighter, focused, and a high achiever. His biggest fan for Josh Cameron. We appreciate his time. Thanks to Baylor for giving us an opportunity to speak with Josh Cameron. When we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar. Around the corner, Mickey Spagnola from AT&T Stadium for tonight's East-West Shrine Bowl. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. The pepperoni and Italian sausage. Triple Magnifico. I don't even know if you can see the crust or anything else, because all there is pepperoni and a bunch of Italian sausage. It's delicious. You would think with all of that, the ingredients and toppings, that you could not do that with a thin crust pizza. But if you ask, and I would like to have thin crust and then kind of cook it a little bit harder on the bottom, a little bit real crispy, not burnt, but crispy, and it's a delicious pizza. They have wings and sandwiches and more, pozzolis, and of course they have soft drinks that can be delivered to you. Or if you want to pick it up or you want to deliver you, either way, you can go to marcospizza.com. Fastest growing pizza brand in America, Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
We'll have Craig Off the Radar here momentarily. Craig brought this up, and no one with the program can discuss officially anybody that's commit names or whatever. But the commitment of Jamarian Vincent, Garrett, you saw him a little bit
I did.
His sophomore year.
I did.
And it's Conley has every year about 2 to 4 or 5 really Kobe Black's at Texas, and of course his brothers at Oklahoma State. We know about some of the players they've had, but that commitment with him the day after London Smith that's two nice for them, nice bangers for what Baylor's brought into their class of 2026. Not this year, but class of 2026.
No, it really is. I'm interested to see how Baylor plans on using Jamari and in what position they want to play him, if it's offense or defense, because he could, take care of multiple facets on the football field. So it's going to be interesting to see.
All right, Craig.
Welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Here on a Thursday, as we normally are, around 4:45 or sometime in that time frame, and looking at a grab bag of stories from around the world of sports, and a few different things going on today, including a couple of events later on tonight. But I guess the big story coming out of the NFL today revolves around Justin Tucker, kicker of the Baltimore Ravens, and, well, quite frankly, the greatest kicker in NFL history is who Justin Tucker is. But the league is now looking into allegations against the former Texas Longhorn and current Ravens kicker, as he has been accused of inappropriate behavior during massage sessions. Does this sound familiar to anybody?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it is about the massages, but 6 massage therapists have accused Tucker of inappropriate behavior during sessions, according to an article by the Baltimore Banner. Now, I've never heard of the Baltimore Banner, so I'm just going off the cuff here. I don't know how well-respected and whatnot they are. It's just a outlet I had never heard of, but they allege that the incidents took place between 2012 and 2016. Tucker denied those allegations, and for what it's worth, those years would have been his first 5 years in the league. So from his rookie season through year 5, the league is looking into it and said they first became aware of the allegations via the reporter investigating the story, because they had never been shared, those allegations, with the NFL, but that they do take all allegations, any allegations, seriously, and will look into it. Apparently, according to the article, multiple massage therapists ended his sessions early or refused to work with him again because of, quote, egregious behavior. Apparently, according to the article, there are also 2 spas that have banned him from ever returning to their establishments. And an attorney who specializes in sexual abuse and harassment, according to the NFL.com article, is representing 4 massage therapists who shared similar experiences about Tucker. Now, Justin Tucker came out with a statement. I don't know when he found out about it, but he had a lot to say about it. I mean, he put up like a legitimate page, an entire page, in response to the allegations today, and said, to paraphrase a little bit, that throughout his career as a pro athlete, he's always looked to conduct himself with the utmost professionalism, that he'd never been accused of any misconduct ever, or even acting inappropriately in front of a massage therapist or during a massage or during any other type of work like that. He's never received any complaints. He's never been dismissed from a therapy or session. He's never been told he wasn't welcome at any spa or place of business. His attorneys have denied the allegations, and we'll see what happens here. But the Ravens say that they're aware, much like the NFL. They're also aware of his response to said allegations, and it's just one of those we'll continue to monitor type of situations. So, Justin Tucker, you talk about just sort of out of left field, and lawsuits don't mean you're guilty, so they'll fight this, and we'll see what comes out on the other side of it. But, just kind of a random, bizarre, and depending on what's true here, very unfortunate either way. Either he acted inappropriately or he's being blackmailed, basically. And so I don't know what the truth is, but they'll get down to the bottom of it. And, just kind of a strange, random story today.
It will be interesting to see if this is covered the same way as it was Deshaun Watson. It's just now, it's fresh news, so it's out there. And anytime you say, well, there's no way that's Justin Tucker is one of the greatest, if not the greatest kicker in NFL history, and what he was at the University of Texas, too. But this will be interesting to follow along and to see how much people dig into it and what is the truth. If we'll ever find the truth or not, I don't know.
Yeah, and the announcers have to be very careful about saying he jerked one to the right.
Oh, my God.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. It's a very weird story, though. Like,
you need to walk off the set. That's it. We're done.
hey, I mean, it was very low hanging fruit.
I could go. I could go a lot of different directions with like you saying even that. So yeah.
Oh dear.
Well done.
Let's clean this all up.
That's
Let's
even
clean
for
this
me
all up.
shocking.
Let's clean this all up, just like the masseuses had to do after he left the room.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean, hey, if you're trying out for late night, the NFL show, like a late night on the NFL Network, this would be the type of material I think that you would be putting out there. But yeah, I don't know how much this will be talked about outside of football, but yeah, pretty, I guess, stunning. And I'd say he is the greatest kicker of all time in NFL history. I don't think there's any debate about it at this point. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But Justin Tucker suddenly dealing with some Deshaun Watson-like issues in terms of accusations and misbehavior at massage places. So, interesting stuff there. Meanwhile, tonight in the NFL, you've got the NFL Pro Bowl games, which I don't know how much you guys know about the Pro Bowl at this point, but it is a different format, and it's kind of a different thing than we got accustomed to growing up, where it was just like, I guess there was a skills challenge depending on what year you were doing, like Darryl Green would do the 40-yard dash and that type of a thing. But they do have games going on tonight, and then there's the actual game itself on Sunday. So tonight, if you want to watch the Pro Bowl games, it will be on NFL Network, and it'll be on ESPN, not NFL Network, on ESPN starting at 6 o'clock. So here in 45 minutes, and it will include the passing test, satisfying catches presented by Snickers, a relay race, helmet harmony, the big spike, and then dodgeball as the main event to cap it off. And I had a list of some of the guys participating, but I couldn't tell if it was up to date or not. But yeah, you've got all of these different events that'll be going on later on tonight. So if you're into that sort of thing, then you can enjoy. So passing the test is quarterbacks have 40 seconds to hit targets on the field. Each target has a different value. They did this back in the day. You remember the moving, like on the golf carts, they had the targets, and Dan Marino's like trying to peg the one that's 50 yards down the field. I don't know if it's exactly like that, but it seems similar. Quarterbacks with the most point wins the competition, but the caveat wins the competition for their conference. The caveat is alongside each quarterback, one teammate will have the opportunity to answer 5 trivia questions about current Pro Bowl players, and for every question their teammate answers correctly, the QB will get an additional 10 seconds to hit targets. So the NBA is probably all over this, wondering how they can copy this kind of thing. Yeah. It's very gimmicky, but participating, you've got Joe Burrow, who will be throwing. He'll have Nico Collins, I guess, doing trivia with him. Drake May with Jonnu Smith. Russell Wilson with Myles Garrett doing the trivia. Then on the NFC side, you've got Josh Jacobs teaming up with Jared Goff, who obviously will doing the passing. Sam Darnold passing with BYU's own Fred Warner doing the trivia. And then Baker Mayfield passing with his trivia partner, Mike Evans. So that's one of the examples of one of the events that they will have tonight. The satisfying catches, which is a pass catching thing. You've got guys like Jamar Chase, Brock Bowers, Justin Jefferson that'll be a part of that. The big spike will be players getting 3 spikes, and whoever records the biggest one, which will be measured by power and impact, will get to win that competition, and so on and so forth. Relay race and a lot of gimmicky stuff. So are you at all extra interested in the Pro Bowl games later on tonight on ESPN?
Can I tell you that I'm not? It doesn't mean I don't like
I can tell
football.
by the blank stares as y'all read your emails or whatever you just did for the last 5 minutes.
I was looking at some. I got some new Justin Tucker stuff.
The trivia thing, I think, is fun. Like, that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing that would interest me, though. Just
very
because I
kiddie
think
stuff.
it would be kind of funny to listen to Mike Evans, Mike Evans answer like wrong questions about Baker Mayfield.
Sure.
But yeah, that to me, there's some fun in that, and they have to make it fun. Sometimes I think the NFL takes itself way too seriously.
Sure.
So this is good. I think they can be fun, which is why people don't like a player like Baker Mayfield, because he doesn't take himself seriously at all. And I think there's fans who don't get that. They're like, he's supposed to be like dour and like all
I
this.
think sometimes he is.
Yeah,
I think sometimes he is.
But yeah, but he is. He knows how to cut loose.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I think this is a way to do it, and I don't think the players liked the Pro Bowl before, other than being in Hawaii. I think that was great because it was a family trip that they could bring their wives and kids on, and it was fun. But outside of that, I don't think they really enjoyed it all that much.
Yeah, they'll have dodgeball rounds 1 and 2 in addition to the other things, in case I didn't mention that as well. And so there's all sorts of guys involved. I'm not going to take up the whole segment reading that off, but if you want some fun, especially kids type stuff, you can watch flag football and passing competitions and all of that. Then the NFL Pro Bowl gets underway with their games later on tonight. And then the game actually itself will be on Sunday. 7-on-7 flag football, if you guys realize that. I don't know if y'all even remember that, but that's the Pro Bowl format now. So that will be televised on Sunday at 2 o'clock on ABC and all the rest of those Disney channels. But tonight it will be the games, I believe. So there you go with that. All right, so let's see here. A couple of other things. You've got the East-West Shrine Bowl that you mentioned earlier. That is also on tonight as well. And for those who want to tune into that, that is what is actually on NFL Network and what I was thinking of earlier. That is 7 o'clock. So that's available from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And we ran down a few of the names. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt from Arizona is an intriguing name. You've got Shedeur Sanders not playing tonight. He's listed on the roster. But guys like LeJontay Wester and Jimmy Hort Jr. from Colorado. A lot of players, and we've touched on a lot of them. Taj Brooks, etc. But that game will be later on tonight on NFL Network. Is that something you guys watch? I mean, I know we pay attention to the draft process and all of that, but do you actually get into the Shrine? Do you watch the All-Star games?
Oh, I'll watch. If I catch it, I'll watch a little bit of it. But because guys come in and out so much, it's kind of hard to follow a little bit. And the practices are what the big deal is about, right? It's the practices. It's how they did. Because when we get to the games, it's a little bit different. But I'll watch a little bit of that. I will, because I'm curious to see how they do.
If it's on and I happen to turn the TV on, tonight I got a few things I got to do research-wise, but I do. I don't get into listening to all the analysts because that would drive me crazy. But if I see a name or a helmet or a jersey or somebody like that I watched or followed, I'll definitely jump into it.
Yep, so just letting it be known that is later on tonight as well. A couple of other notes before we move on here, because like I said, it's a little bit of a light day, but that's also because of the time of year we're in. Max Scherzer, formerly of the Texas Rangers, has signed a 1-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. A guy who I enjoyed watching him when he was healthy, but I can count on one hand the amount of times that was over the last 2 years with Max Scherzer and the Rangers. So I did wonder what his future was going to look like. They spent a lot of money and a lot of time on trying to get him right. So you would hope if you're Toronto that you get the most max that you can get at this point, but it's just a 1-year deal, $15.5 million for Scherzer and Toronto. And they had, it makes mention in the article, a couple of the different articles about him of they kind of needed to save face a little bit, the Blue Jays, after having an offseason where they kind of missed on, or didn't kind of, but they missed on some targets they thought they might be in the mix for. I don't think this appeases the fan entirely, but for what it's worth, Max Scherzer, 40 years old, back at it and north of the border with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Rangers didn't necessarily, I think they would have made a spot for him had the deal been palatable.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have to, because if you look at they've got Rocker and Leiter who are coming up right now. Tyler Mahle's back. Jacob deGrom is back. Evaldi's back. John Gray is back. And they have Cody Bradford, who's kind of a swing guy. So their focus is more about, filling out that bullpen and who's going to be the closer now. And Yates is gone and all that. So, I'm not surprised that he went there. And the Blue Jays they're in this weird thing where they're trying to do something. They're trying to get Alex Bregman. They try to get Roki Sasaki. They try to do all this, and they haven't been able to do that yet. Now, Bregman hasn't signed with anyone yet.
Yeah, I'm curious about him, man.
There's still a chance that they get him.
I thought that was about to go back. I thought that was
and
about
he might
to
go
pop.
back to Houston.
I don't know.
Because now they shipped off Ryan Presley to the Cubs. But the Blue Jays you remember the Mavericks used to be where – guys would, especially if they were playing in California, would go to Dallas and they would spend the night there and they'd be like, oh man, no state income tax. And then the Lakers would be like, no, you can have whatever you want. and that's what the Blue Jays are right now. I think that they're the team that
are they the what do you call it, the bridesmaid right now?
Yeah, they're the bridesmaid. They're just, for whatever reason, they just can't get over the finish line. So if they don't get over the finish line, then they have to decide, okay, Bo Bichette coming off a bad year but really promising young star, Vlad Guerrero, who is a legitimate superstar in the league, junior. Like, what do you do with them? Do you trade off and rebuild? Do you try to build around them, considering that nobody wants to come? How do you do this?
No, you pray every day. You pray every day you're not in the same division with the Dodgers.
Yeah,
well, I mean, prayers answered then, because they are not even in the same league as the Dodgers.
Exactly.
But, they did want Sasaki pretty badly, and obviously he did go to the Dodgers. But Max Scherzer, 40 years old, we'll see what he can do on a one-year deal. I liked him, but it was hard to really wrap my arms around him because you barely saw him. He was just so in and out, but he got a World Series ring for basically nothing.
Exactly.
I mean, really.
He helped them down the stretch.
Down
and
the stretch he did, yeah.
Down the stretch and in the first part of the playoffs. And then in the World Series, I mean, he didn't really got hurt after that first start. And,
so he deserves some credit, but not a lot of credit because he was very few and far between. And so there you go with that. And then I think the final note for today, because I know we're short on time and already been going a while, is David Shaw is headed to the NFL, former Stanford head coach, not as a head coach. He is the new passing game coordinator for the Detroit Lions. According to Tom Pelissero from NFL Network, Shaw was with the Broncos last season as a executive, and he now will head to Detroit to join up with a pretty good little franchise that's on the upswing, you feel like, but is also reeling a little bit from the losses of their coordinators to head coaching jobs, although it's a compliment. You didn't get rid of those guys because they sucked or you fired them. They got better jobs. They got promotions. So I think you like that, but he will go from, being a personnel executive with Denver to now being with new offensive coordinator John Morton, who also comes over from Denver. So there's the connection there. And, he will serve as their pass game coordinator in Detroit with Dan Campbell and company. So there you go. A few things off the radar.
I thought he was probably as good a college coach to be in the NFL as anybody. And then, of course, Stanford dipped, and then he was gone. I like him. I hope he gets another opportunity somewhere to coach college, but it looks like he's now pretty much an NFL guy. All right.
And especially with where he was at Stanford, it was already unique to begin with. Obviously he didn't experience the whole pie, like not all the way up until this year in terms of college. So you can't really look at him as a guy of like, oh, it's too crazy now, I got to get out of here. But I did like him in college. It does feel, though, like you're right. He's maybe just kind of sticking around in the NFL for a little while, which isn't a bad move. It's America's pastime now at this point, basically. So, there you go. Cool to just see him, though, still in the headlines. And obviously I think we were all, pretty fond of him as Stanford head coach. So there you go. There's a few things off the radar.
All right, Craig, thank you very much. Mickey's going to be by phone, by the way. He's at AT&T Stadium or maybe on his way for that East-West Shrine Bowl, that game that, Craig, you mentioned and we've talked about for the last week. When we come back, 365 Sports with Mickey, what he wants to see or who's he looking at in particular. And oh, by the way, there was a head coach hired for the Cowboys introduced on Monday. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. And it's Super Bowl Sunday is a week from this weekend. So what are you going to do? What do you need for any kind of a party or get-together that you're going to have? By the way, I just saw this today. Live crawfish, Garrett. It's almost that time. In fact, it is that time. Live crawfish is now available again at Waco Custom Marketplace. 30-pound bags available. Pre-orders available. Contact them. Usually, by a Wednesday at 6, and you can pick up your live crawfish, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish on Friday after 6 o'clock. So there it is with that. Also, specials entering the weekend include mahi-mahi at $18.50 a pound. They have bone-in select and bone-in choice ribeye steaks at $14.99 and $16.99 a pound. Butcher shop with pork, poultry, beef, and seafood And, of course, a bakery, fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, and sweets, treats, pies, and cakes, and whatever else you need. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, 365 Sports. We take you to the last half hour of the show. Paul's top 5 around the corner. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, AT&T Stadium, the East-West Shrine game, the Bowl, All-Star game. And we've had Eric Galco, and also we had Owen Reese on to discuss some of the players, et cetera. Mickey, when you go to a game like this, do you look at a specific position or just watch the game?
You know what? I think I just watch the game and try to see, somebody that might stand out. I remember last year when it was at the Ford Center, I said, I'm going to just go and look, right? And there was a cornerback. Boy, I can't remember his name. And he first made a tackle on the kickoff, and it was like a really good tackle. And then on the first or second play, he intercepted a ball, and I'm going, well, I think this guy can play, right? And he ended up getting drafted. I don't know if it was like 3rd round, something like that, but something like that sticks out. One of the running backs, he was a little small. He really played well, but I don't believe he got drafted. So, yeah, just to, plus something to do other than going home and watching television.
Mickey, so before we dive into all the Shrine Bowl guys, Brian Schottenheimer, kind of out of nowhere as the selection as the head coach. Never been a head coach before. And I had wondered why he'd never interviewed before, really. But he said that in the press conference that now he feels he's ready. What impressions do you get from him as what he's going to do as a head coach? And it does seem like a lot of the players seem to really like him as well.
Well, I think you get a twofer, right? You're hiring a head coach, but you're also hiring the offensive coordinator / play caller, because you have to replace that, right? Mm-hmm. I think we talked about that last week where, if you hired somebody that was a defensive type guy, my first question to him is, who's your offensive coordinator? Because that's where the majority of your salary cap money is being spent right now. So I think you get two things for one. And I know he's never been a head coach, but how many other guys got hired this round that have never been a head coach? Now, I know he's different. He's been in the league longer, but, you know, got some experience, played with under some pretty good coaches, you know, was a coordinator for some pretty good quarterbacks. So, yeah, I just think the more the Cowboys looked at it and looked at the field, it just made sense. I mean, I'm writing my column for tomorrow, and I know the criticism they're getting it, and a lot of it, I heard somebody say this the other day. I hope he fails so I can continue to criticize Jerry Jones. It's like, okay, I get it, right? That it's open season on criticizing the Cowboys. But my question to people like that is, who did you want to hire as head coach? Who did they miss on? Because I guarantee you those Detroit coordinators, those things were done, right? The agents had that because they didn't just lose a game and the next day both guys got hired, right? That was done. So who would you have hired if they didn't do this?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea, Mickey. And again, I don't know if any coach's failures are completely on the coach and it's not on the way the roster's been built or some of the other decisions that have been made over the last 29 years. So, yeah, I don't outside of them really swinging big, which we know, Jerry has a kind of an idea for what a salary for a coach should be. And he's not going to go pay a coach as much as they pay Andy Reid in Kansas City. So, to answer your question, I really don't know what they would have done.
Andy Reid wasn't available.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
If they, I guarantee you, if they hired Pete Carroll, it would have been, it's another retread, and this guy's going to turn 74 the second week of the season. It would have got criticized. Anything they would have done would have got criticized just because of the history. And, I just think it's somewhat unfair to Schottenheimer, who has been an offensive coordinator and pretty successful at different stops. Now, I know there's been circumstances why, he changed or, was let go or however you want to look at it. But he coached some pretty good quarterbacks into some pretty good seasons. When his first coordinator job was with the Jets, and he took rookie quarterback Mark Sanchez to the AFC title game 2 years in a row. I just think that it made sense from a continuity standpoint and a familiarity standpoint. Now, I don't know if he's going to be successful and they're going to win the Super Bowl next year. They got a long ways to go. But to choose somebody that had, I think he's got like a head coach's presence, right? He can command the room. He handled his media sessions awfully well, and that doesn't mean you can coach, right? But you got to have this presence where, a lot of guys can stand in front of 30 guys and take care as a coordinator, but now you put him in front of 70 guys, and how well does he do? And then the other point, I got to interview Dak Prescott, and Dak was all for it. He thought it was a great move, and that's why he was at the press conference, because he wanted to be there to support Brian Schottenheimer, and said that he's my guy. So there was something about him that engaged with the players, even though he had the title as offensive coordinator, but McCarthy was running the show. He was calling the plays. So now you get a head coach that's going to do both once again. And the fact that they were able to bring back Matt Eberflus as the defensive coordinator, I thought was a really good move and a good start to putting the staff back together.
How much, and I know we've discussed this with you even last week, but it appears as if McCarthy wanted to come back, but under his conditions. And, of course, the Cowboys, I think, did not want to make a change, but under their conditions. Did that hold them up in any way to be prepared for when they had to start a search? Did that cost them any time or anybody as a candidate?
Now, I don't know that for a fact, but if I'm in charge, for any department in any company, I've got a list of people I would think I want to go after, right? If something happens.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't think it caught them totally by surprise. I think in the back of their minds, you know, they thought they were going to come. You're right. I thought they were going to come to an agreement. And I don't know if the Cowboys shortchanged McCarthy on length or if he overplayed his hand. Because where's he coaching today?
Nowhere. No, he basically said he's going to take the year off. Yeah.
And he took his name out of – a lot of times when guys take their name out of a search like he did with the Saints, it meant he wasn't going to get the job. So I think they couldn't come to an agreement on length of contract. And I don't know how much each side was, you know, wanting to do, but I was told that's kind of what was the bottom line. And then he was willing to walk away. You know, and sometimes, you know, did he really want to continue coaching? That's another thing. And sometimes you know, like players do sometimes, it's like they think they got this idea that they're done, but they don't want to make that decision. They want somebody else to tell them, no, we're not hiring you or not re-signing you, right? I don't know if he did that or not.
Yeah, I think that I've heard players have said that if you start thinking you're going to retire, you might as well be retired.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I don't know if you want to criticize them for not bringing them back, but everybody had them on the hot seat before the season ever started. And then it unraveled with all the injuries and things. I don't know that it was his fault on how he coached the team. But again, everybody wanted him out. And now when he's out, everybody's like, well, what are you doing? So again, Jerry's going to get criticized no matter, you know, how it sort of unfolds just because of the history hanging over them right now. It's not like they can make a good decision.
Okay, Mickey, let's get to the Shrine Bowl and the draft. The Cowboys have 10 picks. Am I correct?
Did they?
Because they've got.
They didn't already award the compensatories, did they?
I guess they're speculated that they're going to get 3.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they could have up to 10 picks. This is a draft where of whatever picks they have, they're really going to need some to contribute right away. And because they're, again, the salary cap situation and what they do, but they're also kind of in a good spot when you go into a draft in which, outside of drafting a quarterback who's going to start for you, there's not a position on the roster that you would say no to, is there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You named a position. I give you an argument that they need that. Now, you can't get it all in the first round, right?
No,
you got to prioritize and what you're looking for and what's available when it's your turn to draft. But yeah, I other than quarterback, you know, I probably not drafting a center. But other than that, yeah, bring them on. And so that's the sort of, I mean, I'm going to call it a luxury. It's a luxury you don't want, but that's kind of the situation they're in with the number of free agents that are, you know, guys that are unrestricted going into this free agency period.
What do you think the odds are? I think the one, like the big one that they'd probably like to try to keep would be Oso Odigizua, right? If you said you can only have one, would he be the one?
Yeah, you need to do that because, I mean, there's not enough depth there in the first place. And then if you lose him, you really are shortchanged at this point, and you really don't have like a veteran that you're going to say, well, I'm going to sign him and bring him back. So yeah, that's I think that's a necessary thing. You know, I mean, you wouldn't mind Brandon Cooks coming back, but hey, he's got 10 years in. Can you find a number 2 receiver in the first or second round? Because if he doesn't come back, I don't know that the rest of those guys are a number 2 guy. I think there's some guys that are, you know, really good number 3s, but I don't know about number 2. So yeah, wide receiver, probably don't need a high tight end. I think they're okay there. Offensive line, yeah. Defensive, you mentioned tackle, defensive end. Are you counting on Sam Williams coming back good as new after he tore his ACL? Linebacker, you know, there's no guarantee Overshone comes back and is ready to start the season playing. Eric Kendricks is a free agent. You'd like to have him back. Somebody might want to spend some money on him after another really good season that he had. So linebackers there. And, what did they run out of at the end of the season? Cornerbacks because of injuries, right?
And Trayvon Diggs is no guarantee this season, is he?
Well, not to start it for sure. And you know, we'll see if the surgery is successful that he's able to get back and play. When you hear about, you know, having an injury that you got to do something to pack in under the knee, I'm going like that. That don't sound good, right?
No.
So I think I said I didn't say safety, but you know, other than that, they need all that. Another offensive lineman, you know, if Zach Martin decides he's done, you probably need to bring in another draft choice type offensive lineman for sure. And you know, and what about and the way I look at it, and I was looking at some of the guys in the Senior Bowl today, and I don't remember the names, but how about a tackle that can play guard and start off at guard and then move the tackle at some point? You know, that's always a possibility. That's kind of what they did with Tyler Smith, who, by the way, I saw the people that do next gen stats, they had their all pro team. So they picked the best player at every position, I think, off of stats. And Tyler Smith was the pick at left guard, by the way. But you always need depth in the offensive line. So I don't think you eliminate a position for sure.
Mickey, good luck maneuvering your eyeballs watching that game. And I think when it comes to those, if there was a local player, like, for example, if we covered it, there's a couple of kids from Baylor, Big 12 players, whatever. I could see just watching the game, and there's going to be players that stick out. And I love the fact you have that game going on tonight, immediately into the Senior Bowl, which they do a great job, of course, in Mobile. And I tell you what, having that game in Arlington, to me, it's not that it didn't get a lot of publicity, but I think it's helped that East-West Shrine game, because at times it almost seemed like it disappeared.
Yeah, you know, and it was a really good event at the Ford Center last year, but unfortunately, they booked the pro tennis tournament that starts on Monday, right? And so they couldn't play the game there. And I was like, well, why can't they? Just got to lay down tennis courts, right? Oh, no, there's a big structure being built around the center court with seats real close, suite. I was shocked when I walked in there the other day and saw how the whole layout was. They're going to have like 5 tennis courts inside the Ford Center. So I'm interested to see how this will go over at AT&T Stadium, because it might get, you know, overwhelmed. Because of the enormity of the stadium and how, I don't know how many people are going to be there. All I know is the tennis tournament is sold out.
I remember back in young Mickey Spagnola could play that game.
Well, I could. And somebody made a joke. He goes, because I was trying to see, about getting tickets or whatever. And somebody said, yeah, he wants to bring his racket and get on the courts. And it was like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
All right, man. Enjoy the game tonight. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll be in New Orleans next week, so maybe an off week unless something happens with the Cowboys that we have to jump in with you.
I can't believe you're not bringing me with you again like the old days.
We have tried this before. They will not allow you to sit inside of a piece of luggage. It's not going to happen. Thank you. All right, buddy. Thank you.
I appreciate you doing it on the phone, because I was thinking I could do it on the phone with video and hold it while I was driving, and then I decided
that's not very smart.
I've lived too long to die that way.
Yeah, don't be doing that. I'm glad we got you on the phone. Glad to hear from you. Mickey Spagnola with us most every Thursday around 5:30 on the Cowboys and also the NFL. When we come back, it's Paul Catalina and his top 10. 5.
Got my go-to polo from Flag and Anthem. It's everything you want in a golf polo, but you can wear it at a dinner, to a barbecue, whatever your plans are. It's extremely soft, super comfortable. Check it out, flagandanthem.com.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
That's far.
So much forgiveness. Wait, did you say forgiveness like far, or forgiveness like forgiveness? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness.
I'm hearing far.
Forgiveness, like forgiveness. Forgiveness? Forgiveness.
I'm still hearing far, but whatever.
Introducing Stealth 2 with more carbon for more forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Just hit it.
Get ready for epic savings at Best Buy. Right now, you can save up to $700 on select Alienware and Dell gaming products. Perfect for leveling up your gaming experience. Plus, grab the latest Android Google Pixel at an unbeatable price. Don't miss these incredible deals. Shop now at bestbuy.com and upgrade your tech today.
For Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5. Today, we wind up the That Dude Awards. I know you're all sad, but it's time for the final dudes. Number 5, of course, we're brought to you by Texas Beef House. The QB dude. Now, look, I didn't do individual positions, but QB is the most important one, and I think Cam Ward deserves special recognition here. because without Cam Ward, Miami would have been the same as they were a year ago. He's accelerated the program's growth. He bailed Mario Cristobal out of multiple jams, and he made up for a defense that was abysmal. In a year that Travis Hunter doesn't exist, it's probably his award. Well, I mean, him and Ashton Genty, but it might be his award to run away with, being the quarterback at the U. But he really, because of the fact they didn't make the playoff, I don't know if he's getting his full due as what he did in his final year of college football, because it was truly amazing. And if you watched Miami this year, and believe me, I watched them a lot, and often nauseated because they were so good. This guy is such a ridiculous difference maker. It is, I will admit it, as much as it pains me to say it about a Miami quarterback, it was fun to watch. Number 4, the offensive dude of the year, Ashton Genty. Hopefully future Dallas Cowboy, but certainly a future NFL star because of the way that he plays. There is nobody else that could have had this award on this list, because the way he dominated, the way that he took control of games, the way that he has helped reinvigorate the running back position in college, him and many others, but he chief among them, Ashton Genty, offensive dude of the year. Number 3, the defensive dude of the year, Abdul Carter, the latest in a line of number 11 defensive ends from Penn State that are badass mamma jammas. This guy is a terror. If you watched in the playoff, every step of the way, somebody had to account for him. He is going to be a very high draft pick. Whoever gets him is going to be very lucky. He is very much like Micah Parsons, and that is absolutely scary when it comes to the next level, and it's scary when it comes to when you play Penn State. The best player on their team this year, and that includes a team that had Tyler Warren on it. They had some really good players, Penn State did, but that defense will be different next year because, 1, Jim Knowles is there, and 2, Abdul Carter will not be. And they went kind of right from Micah Parsons to him almost without missing a beat. So curious to see who the next one is there at Penn State. Number 2. Number 2? Yeah. Number 2, the glue dude. I love glue guys. I think everybody loves glue guys. I especially love glue guys who are elite at their position. Jack Sawyer, defensive end from Ohio State, just has that glue guy attitude for the defense. He's the one who kept them together. He was the leader. He was the one who really rallied the troops. You saw the big play he made against Texas at the end of the game. He has that ability to put a stamp on something. And so the second highest honor we give at the Dude Awards, that Dude Awards, is the glue dude, because that's an important part of any team in any locker room. Jack Sawyer, you are this year's glue dude. Congratulations. You have won a lifetime supply of Elmer's glue. Elmer's, the only glue we know the name of. Number 1, the dude of all dudes. Who could it be other than Travis Hunter? This was the Heisman Trophy winner, two-way superstar, Bolitnikoff winner, should have won the Thorpe Award too. It was absolutely ridiculous that he's not up. Like, he was the best player. He is the Ohtani of college football. He is doing things that people have not done in this sport in a very, very, very long time. And there is nobody else, love him or hate him, at Colorado that you could put as the dude of all dudes, Travis Hunter. That's going to do it for us. It's time to say adieu. Smokey.
All right, adieu is what the word is of the day, and we appreciate those of you who have watched or listened, whatever or however you digest it. 365 Sports on YouTube, also on Sikkim 365 app and 365 Sports YT. Andrew, thank you very much for being a part of the show. Garrett Ross and his old Joe Gibbs Washington with the R logo on the top.
Absolutely.
Very, very nice. I got a new hoodie. It came in after Washington lost to Philadelphia. Washington versus everybody. It's over there on my laptop bag. I don't know if I can wear it now. Can I? I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can.
I don't know if I can or not. But thanks to Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, all of our great sponsors. Back at it again tomorrow, 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Don't forget again, tonight, 10:30, the local CW 365 Sports Tonight. Good night.